We never know where life will lead us or what may hinder us along the way. But while every day can feel like one big question mark, it doesn't have to. With the right insights, strategies, and solutions from Western and Southern Financial Group, together we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind.
What's Pro Football Focus doing? Last week they had Brady. This week they got Brady.
We're literally doing it differently from everybody else.
As a matter of fact, moving forward from this point on, I will not make reference to PFF.
Do you not understand that they are that way because you're Joe Flacco?
And you just like to discredit things that people deserve credit for.
That you can't possibly be expected to defend that.
Talk about the game, Sam. So who cares about what people think about us?
Yeah, I like football season, and all the things that go with it.
Welcome in to the PFF NFL podcast. Steve Palazzolo back here with Sam Monson for another Mock Draft Monday, Sam. We've been pretty consistent with our mock drafts, and I think we're going to do this all the way up through draft week.
Yeah, but this one's different.
It is
There's
different.
A theme, an idea, purpose behind it. It's
One that I generally detest.
Yeah.
That I do not like at all.
Yeah, but weirdly, because this is kind of how most people think when they're drafting, it's like, what's your biggest need? What's the biggest need we have? That's the position we should draft, right?
Yeah.
Usually not the way, generally speaking, that teams should be drafting. Or at least speaks to the idea that if you've left yourself in this position, you've already made some mistakes, right? But because that's kind of how everybody wants to see their team drafting, if you put out a mock that's like, here's your team's biggest need filled, everyone kind of likes it.
People do like that. They
Everyone
like to
hates
evaluate.
mocks. Every mock in the world is the worst mock ever. But if you put out one that's specifically a bad way of drafting, people love it.
This might be our worst mock that we put together, but the best one as far as fan
Feedback,
support.
yeah.
Just we filled all of our needs. We're happy. We filled the position that we absolutely need on our football team right now. So this was your idea, right? You were playing around with this on your own?
I was asking Austin last week whether there was any kind of mileage in terms of written content about, mocks with ideas or themes or stuff like this, right? Is there any mileage in having a mock draft that's done a little bit differently? He was just like, nah. I was like, all right, well, screw him. Let's just do it in the podcast. I think it's a good idea. I think there's interesting discussion to be had off it. So
we'll show him mileage. We will show him the mileage of the need-based mock.
Yeah.
Right after, reminding you that the PFF NFL podcast is sponsored by Western and Southern Financial Group. While you focus on these roster moves that we're breaking down, Western and Southern helps advance your money moves. Buying your first home? Planning to start a family? Wondering how to make your money grow? Well, Western and Southern's playbook of life insurance, investment, and retirement solutions helps you rest assured on game day. Team up to understand needs and address goals with a game plan built just for you. Get started at westernsouthern.com/PFF. Look at that. Everybody needs to get to westernsouthern.com/PFF. That is the place. And we appreciate them being a part of the PFF NFL podcast. All right, do you want to get into this? We'll try to follow along a little bit on the screen here in YouTube audio version. I'll do my best to kind of reset where we've been every now and then.
Yeah, and remember, go to the mock draft sim, pff.com/mock to run through it yourself. Do your own mock draft.
I don't want to overload everybody right now, but you do still get 25% off when you use the promo code NFLPOD. That fully unlocks the mock draft sim. It gets you the draft guide, which I know is going to be finalized a week from today, April 11th. Fresh players, updates, all that stuff. And basically, if you sign up now for 25% off, you'll get 2 draft guides for the price of 1 because it's 365 days of access. So NFLPOD, 25% off. All right, let's get into this. We have the mock draft sim over at pff.com. We're going to go based off our own discussion of needs, right? It's not necessarily directly from the mock draft sim.
Yep.
So let's get into it. Jaguars are up on the clock at number 1.
So in every mock in the world right now, the Jags are taking Aiden Hutchinson number 1 overall.
Yep.
But I would argue that by far the most important thing for them to do, and therefore the biggest need, is make sure Trevor Lawrence is fine. So their need has to be on offense. And it's probably tackle. okay, they franchise tag Cam Robinson. He's going to be there, but they still need a right tackle because Jawan Taylor isn't any good. Cam Robinson isn't any good either, but, they franchise tagged him. So grab a tackle. Pick your favorite. Grab him.
Well, let me add something to that, right?
Okay.
I do not think we should define needs as is the position filled this year, because need also means multiple years, right? It means multi-year needs. So if you do look at this is why I'm going to agree with you here. If you do look at tackle, Cam Robinson's been franchise tagged. So that means he's under contract for one more year. Jawan Taylor's contract is ending. This is his last year of his contract. So I agree, tackle's a massive need. The people that argue that, well, Cam Robinson's going to keep the Jaguars from thinking about tackle, I mean, that might be true, but it doesn't mean that all of a sudden they're fine to tackle because, A, as you said, Cam Robinson's not the greatest tackle in the world, and B, he's not here next year. So we don't have to look at needs as this depth chart this year right now, right? So tackle is a need for the Jaguars, and this is a perfect way to do this mock draft differently and not have Aiden Hutchinson there to declare that tackle is the need for the Jaguars.
But now the question becomes which one. So we're taking a tackle. He's going to be starting right tackle day one. So which of the three, Evan Neal, Ike Ekwonu, or Charles Cross, is the guy that you would take number one overall to play right tackle day one?
To play right tackle, I mean, yeah.
With the focus that the most important thing here is Trevor Lawrence. So I have this weird, reptilian brain connection of wanting to see Ike Ekwonu play right tackle in the NFL because my mind, throws back to the days where your right tackle was that mauling, run-blocking monster, and it didn't really matter if he was great at pass protection. That's not the world we live in anymore, right? And I'm kind of forcing that connection, whereas it might not actually make sense. If you're taking one of these guys to play right tackle day one, isn't Evan Neal the guy that makes the most sense? The guy that's done it both sides, right and left tackle in college, that is probably the best combination or compromise of run blocking and pass protection of the three. Therefore, he's the guy, right?
No, I would go Evan Neal. I do think – here's the thing with tackles, too. We always talk about pass-driven league and all that stuff, but because the quarterback controls his actual pressure rate more, I think run blocking, even in our own metrics and numbers, is actually underrated for tackles. I think Evan Neal is the best combination from a run game and pass game perspective. Charles Cross might be the best pure pass protector. Icky might be the best pure run blocker. But Evan Neal's, I think, the best combination of both.
All right.
Add in the fact that he does have that right tackle experience. Let's go Evan Neal, number one overall, to Jacksonville, the Alabama tackle. And again, you might be able to see right there on our YouTube stream here, biggest need filled with the Jaguars going tackle. So now, Lions are up at number 2, and this also completely changes the way we would do every other mock draft, right? Because we would say quarterback's the biggest need. However, given this draft class, we're going to wait either late first, get a guy in the second. Based off our own rules, we pretty much have to draft a QB here.
That's the thing. So it's determining whether or not you think quarterback is the biggest need for Detroit. Obviously, you don't think that Jared Goff is the future, though there is a weird section of Lions fans that kind of do.
That they what?
Think Jared Goff is can be the QB?
Yeah,
for more than just tomorrow?
I think there's a section of fans that will believe anything you want.
The 25% people.
Yeah, I mean, we all should.
Have I told it? Have I discussed that theory in the podcast?
Both on and off the podcast, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'd prefer if you did not call 25% of our audience idiots here.
Okay.
Because that's the implication. You're about to call about 250,000 people.
I don't have to say the word idiot, if that helps.
Yeah, but it's pretty well implied.
Well, also, our podcast listeners are different. We're already of the 75%.
We're pulling from the 75%.
Exactly. My theory
within that 75%, there were probably ranges, but
if you read any poll ever, 25% of people basically will believe anything. 25% of people think that aliens walk amongst us right now, right? Mike over there in the booth, alien, right? Just guy from light years away. 25% of people, it's always 25. That's the number. Of whatever the ridiculous topic is that's being discussed, 25% of people are like, seems believable. So I've come to the conclusion that 25% of people, you just have to write off the opinion of, because you can't. I mean, they'll believe anything, literally anything. So that's the number. Immediately, 25% gone. Forget it. So 25%, maybe that's the number of people that think that Jared Goff can be the QB long-term for the Lions.
But since we're speaking to the other 75%, and I like Jared Goff, and I thought he was a fine bridge quarterback until the next guy. It's time to get the next guy.
Okay.
So in this thought exercise where we're grabbing the biggest need for each team, we absolutely have to grab a quarterback. So, which one?
It can only be Malik Willis.
It's only the guy.
2 overall, you can't take any other QB.
Yeah, and we just did. I like that you came out with your specific QB rankings. We unveiled those on the podcast on Thursday. Did you write that up too? PFF.com. Your top 6.
Yes. Top 6. A favorite mid-round, kind of backup-y style guy, and a favorite sleeper.
Beautiful. So that's over at PFF.com. We broke down all the quarterbacks on our last show. And I agree with you as far as Malik Willis goes. I don't know if he would be our QB1 a few years ago, but I think the league has changed a little bit. And
he's not our QB1 this year, for what it's worth.
I mean, ours. Yours and mine, right? PFF. There's not just
the
one
PFF NFL
board.
podcast QB1.
Yeah, we have our own rankings. Just like the guy in your mentions that has 12 followers. Not that there's anything wrong with that. He has his own draft board too, and he's going to tell you he's got him on. So. We have our board, and Renner's got his board, and, whatever. PFF, they're stupid. Should be Willis. Oh, yeah. Renner's had Malik Willis as QB1 at various points in this process.
Not anymore.
Now, where is he on the board right now so I can
25.
draft him on mine, too? There we go. Malik Willis is going to be the pick for the Lions as they fill their biggest need here at number 2.
Okay.
Good?
Yeah.
All right, Texans are on the clock.
Easy. All of the needs. They need everything.
So they need everything.
Their biggest need is all of the players.
Yeah.
So just pick the best one. They legitimately, there isn't a single position they're set at. So grab whatever. Therefore, they grab Aiden Hutchinson because he's the best player.
So now we could tie break from best available.
Yeah, I mean when all needs are equal, you just grab the best player.
I have to answer a YouTube comment really quick. How has the league changed a little bit? Matthew Stafford versus Joe Burrow. They were in the Super Bowl last year. It's changed because teams have been more willing to build their offense around a rushing attack. You could do that with Malik Willis. And we've also seen, I think because you're scheming up so much offense today, the high-end play, the high-end arm talent type of players are able to succeed a little bit more than we've seen in the past. The Justin Herberts and the Patrick Mahomes and the Josh Allens of the world have done it, and that's why you might take that chance on Malik Willis. At number 3 here with the Texans, now we could argue we could go positional value with these biggest needs.
No.
But we're just saying the biggest needs.
They need everything, therefore you just grab the best player.
And we default to the best player. So now Aiden Hutchinson's going to go 3 to the Texans. So we got Hutchinson going to the Texans. They run that. They do run a 4-man front, so he'll be a traditional 4-3 defensive end there, rushing the passer. And look, the mock draft sim is pretty truthful here. They do need pretty much every position. So,
do you think that there's a difference for Hutchinson between stand-up outside linebacker and hand in the dirt 4-3 end?
Not necessarily. I don't. I think the stance part of that gets overrated a little bit. Can he rush from a 4-point, 3-point, 2-point, all that stuff? But every now and again, if you do run a 3-4, there are X number of times you're going to drop into coverage and all that stuff. And
I think the stance part of it is relevant for certain people.
It's kind of like the left tackle, right tackle thing, right? Like overall, guys do it. Players can do that both ways effectively. They can rush the passer both ways, but there are certain players who seem to produce a little bit better than others.
There are certain players, I think, that need the 3-point stance to get the burst off the line. Like they need that coil to be able to spring at the snap and actually get the get off for the first couple of steps. You remember Aaron Campman?
Oh yeah,
for Green Bay. Aaron Campman, at one point Green Bay switched him, and he was a 3-4 outside linebacker. That dude could not get off the line without that coiled stance to spring and to go. Like he needed the foot in the blocks in order to be able to burst off the line. When they made him a 3-4 outside linebacker, the guy couldn't rush the passer anymore. It was weird.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely guys through the years where that's been the case. So with Hutchinson, I don't think it's necessarily a big deal. So I like him. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's a 4-man front anyway. I think he's great there. So here we go. 3 picks in. Evan Neal. Remember, we're filling the biggest need here. Tackle's the biggest need for the Jaguars. They're going Evan Neal. Lions are grabbing Malik Willis at QB. Texans are taking Aiden Hutchinson. on the edge that puts the Jets on the clock. So their biggest needs, now this is kind of a tie, right? Starting corner or number one wide receiver.
Right, which is handy because I mean, it makes sense. Like in a lot of mocks anyway, the Jets end up with one of those each. Now, here's the argument though. Jets fans, they don't think they need a corner because they just signed DJ Reed. Fine, fair enough. They really like Bryce Hall. Now, again, I hate being put in this position where it's like, I liked a guy more than most people at draft time. And all of a sudden now, his own fan base are like, this guy's amazing. He's fine. We don't need to touch him. And you're like, okay, come on. Look, I like Bryce Hall as much as the next guy. And Bryce Hall has shown some flashes, but I'm not sure we can rely on him being our number 2 corner and thinking we're set.
I like Bryce Hall. I'm with you. I think Bryce Hall is a good corner.
Similarly, number 3 corner is not exactly set. Slot. Like I don't think we can look at this depth chart and think we're fine here. Now they have argued reasonably, I think, that edge rusher is a bigger need because you've got Carl Lawson who's coming off an Achilles, so we can't really rely on Carl Lawson, and John Franklin Myers who's an inside-outside kind of guy, not necessarily your number one edge rusher, even though he is by far their best pass rusher. So edge, and in this scheme, with Robert Saleh's defense, remember in San Francisco, it was at its best when they had all those edge rushers that were producing, which helped the cornerback play, et cetera, et cetera. So their argument is edge rusher is the biggest need.
Yeah, honestly, I could be talked into edge rusher in this instance because I would say like John Franklin Myers had a better grade than, say, Bryce Hall last year at their respective positions. But I think going into a season, knowing what you need for depth and all that stuff, I'd be more willing to say Bryce Hall's my CB2, cornerback 2, and I'd feel better about that than John Franklin Myers as my second edge. And then I would say you could kind of say the same thing about receivers. You have Corey Davis and Elijah Moore, and knowing that I'm going to be picking at 10, I feel pretty good about the way the receivers fall there. So we could cheat a little bit here, right? I mean, it's biggest need, but we also know that the Jets are picking at 10. I wouldn't hate the edge argument here. But you want to – I mean, I would go corner. I mean, I would say I don't stop at 2 when I'm drafting, when I'm trying to draft corners. I don't stop at 2. I don't say, oh, I have 2 starters, I'm good. I'm always trying to get to 3 or 4 legitimate corners because I think that's how you win.
Well, particularly not when 2 is a complete gamble. Like, he's an unknown. It's not that we've seen Bryce Hall for like a season and it was okay.
Yeah. No, as is 3. I mean, Michael Carter being the slot, and not necessarily, not that all these, I mean, DJ Reed's an outside corner, even though he's smaller, but I think you could still add some flexibility here. So, where do you want to go here as far as biggest need, knowing that they're also going to circle back at 10?
I would be tempted if we say, I think biggest need for this team, just in pure abstract terms, which is the point of this, is that number 1 wide receiver. Again, it's like, what's the most important thing on this team? It's making sure Zach Wilson doesn't suck, like Trevor Lawrence. Like, the most important thing is ensuring that last year's top pick, the quarterback, doesn't bust. And after 1 year, neither one of those guys is in particularly great shape. So number 1 priority, if I'm the Jets, is let's absolutely ensure that this guy functions. So right now, their wide receiver group, it's stocked full of like number 2 and number 3 options. Give him that number 1 guy.
All right, so we're going to go receiver. Number 1 wide receiver, biggest need for the Jets. So number 1 wide receiver on the PFF boards, Drake London. Is that how you feel about? I think Thursday we'll try to get your wide receiver rankings on here, right? We'll do a receiver ranking show like we did with the quarterbacks. We'll unload all of our receiver takes. Are you in on Drake London as the top wide receiver in this class?
Maybe.
Perfect.
Maybe.
You sound like me now.
Well, right now, PFF's board has them. Drake London, number 11 overall on the big board. Garrett Wilson, number 12 overall on the big board. And Jamison Williams, number 16. Those 3 guys are pretty tightly ranked. I think that's probably the 3 that you would be picking from in any kind of wide receiver ranking. And I'm not 100% sold on any of them. But I think at some point, you just got to grab one and hope he's your guy. Like right. Drake London makes a lot of sense. You look at him play and you see he's the guy that every year you're sort of looking at it, you're like, I'm not 100% sure why this is working, but it is. And I'm starting to lean more and more on the idea of if it works in college, it works in the NFL.
What don't you think should work? We'll get into it. We'll get into it Thursday.
Yeah. So,
but good size, moves well, wins at the catch point. When you do draft a Drake London, my guy Corey Davis gets to be a true number 2, and Elijah Moore gets to move around, play in the slot, and use his explosiveness all over the field. This makes your offense better. I like Drake London here at 4 for the Jets. Reminder, we're drafting the biggest needs for each team. All right, we're doing it live. We're 4 picks in. If you're on YouTube, you can see on the screen Evan Neal, Malik Willis, Aiden Hutchinson. Drake London now goes to the Jets. It puts the Giants up on the clock. Biggest need, Sam, has to be right tackle here.
Yeah. I mean, offensive line generally.
Offensive line generally. Giants at 5, and then they're coming back here at 7 to fill another need.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Right tackle. So, again, now they're in the same conversation as the Jags were number 1 overall, only without Evan Neal on the board.
Is this Ike Ekwonu over Charles Cross in part because fits the bill as a mauling right tackle?
Right.
The run game still does matter. Like I said, run blocking still does make an impact here. And I think if Ike fails at tackle, could make a really good guard, and I think that adds a little flexibility to what the Giants can do.
It does, and I think there's value to that for a team like the Giants where the interior is still not good. They've made they've tinkered with it. Mark Lewinsky comes over in free agency, John Feliciano. They've got Max Garcia at left guard. Like, there's a world where all 3 of those guys are viable. There's also a world where at least one of them sucks and they need to make some moves. So, yeah, I like the contingency plan of we give Icky the chance to start at right tackle, and if it doesn't work, we can kick him inside. And there are people who believe that he's like a Quentin Nelson level type of guard inside, even if he'd be a good right tackle outside. You hear that every now and again with Icky, that he'd be a good right tackle, but he can be a great guard. I like that as a contingency plan. Let's play him outside first. If it works, great. If it doesn't, we can move him inside, and we have kind of a need there anyway.
That's how Zach Martin became one of the elite guards in the NFL, was a left tackle at Notre Dame. And look, if you have an elite guard, that is valuable. I think that is worth the first-round pick. If a guy's elite, if you know that he's going to be elite, we don't know with any of this stuff. But I do like that contingency plan for the Giants. So we're filling the biggest needs here. Let's go Ike Ekwonu, number 6 on the PFF draft board. He's going to go number 5 overall here to the Giants, filling that offensive line need, which takes you to the Panthers here at 6. And again, this is where I don't want to say it throws a wrench in the draft. I think it throws a bit of a wrench in how we would mock draft, because just like at number 2 with the Lions, we wouldn't necessarily shoehorn a quarterback in.
But they're going to.
Yeah. In real life, they're probably going to, I think, right? They have to draft a quarterback. They don't pick again until the 4th. And then in this particular mock draft, because we're just attacking biggest needs for this thought exercise, next QB up has to go to the Panthers here at 6.
Yeah. And it's got to be Teeny Hands Kenny Pickett, right? That's who they're going with. They made him hold a football and everything.
Now are we doing what we would do, or we're doing a combination of both here?
Let's go with what we think the team will do.
These are all just thought
based
exercises.
Off biggest need.
These are just thought exercises. We're talking it through and all that stuff. I saw your little trial run on this, and I know you had Pickett at 6.
I mean, look, we're back in this. Malik Willis is honestly the only quarterback that I would take in the first round. Then you're sort of saying which one of these other guys even has upside to work out as like a legitimate long-term starter. I think Pickett maybe has that upside. Matt Corral potentially has that upside. Sam Howell, I can kind of see a world where that works. Desmond Ridder, it's tougher to see. But Pickett is the one. Pickett is the one that makes sense, I think, if you're Carolina and you're like, I don't agree with this narrative, but I think that's how everybody else sees it, that he can start day one. He can execute the offense. He is the one that has the most seamless transition to the NFL because of the way he executed that offense at Pitt. I think his issues in terms of pocket presence and holding onto the ball too long and those things are bigger problems that are going to cause issues there. But, I mean, he's the guy that somebody else is going to take if Malik Willis is off the board.
And you're going to throw him behind this Panthers offensive line, huh?
I mean, personally.
Which has taken some steps.
I'm not, but somebody is.
All right. So we're filling the biggest need here. So the Panthers are going to go quarterback. We'll give them Kenny Pickett here at 6. He's number 48 on the PFF draft board at the moment. You're QB 3.
God have mercy on his soul.
And look, the Panthers have added Austin Corbett on the offensive line this offseason.
Fixed.
And Bradley Bozeman could get in there and maybe start at center or one of the guard positions.
It's better than it was a year ago.
Yes.
Put it that way.
It's
not fixed, but it's definitely better than last year.
They've made a couple moves, but they're just a little hamstrung for a team that's rebuilding given some of the trades that they made. So we're going to go Kenny Pickett at 6
theory,
to the Panthers.
Remember last year it was like terrible offensive line and Taylor Moton. Now in theory it's a good right side. It's Moton and Corbett.
Yeah.
So the right side is okay.
Whether Bozeman takes over at center for Pat Elflein or moves to left guard, they still need a left tackle.
And, they need a left tackle and one other starter.
But that's one of those, like, do you just bring in Dwayne Brown for a year, stitch it together? Because they don't have other ways to build it, right?
I desperately hope that Brady Christensen takes a massive step forward year 2.
Yeah, but I think they're pretty resigned to him being a guard with the, T-Rexes and all that, even though he played good tackle. Are we allowed to say that's just short arms? Short arms.
I know that, yeah.
Yeah, just explain it to the people. He's not an actual dinosaur.
No, true.
Yeah, but Brady Christensen.
Though he is quite old.
He is a little old, right? He might be extinct soon, Christensen. Here I am. I'm 40, Yeah. You're still in your 30s.
I know.
What's it like on that side?
It's good. It's good.
Yeah. I was in my head. We just did our a lot of our HR stuff.
Yeah. Well, you did.
PFF. I did. I know you did it months ago. It was due the other day, so I did it when it was due. And there was some suggestions that you shouldn't put your stapler too far away because if you reach too far for stuff, you're
going to throw out a hip reaching for a stapler.
I'm telling you what the video walkthroughs that we had were suggesting. Don't reach too far. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. Yeah. People are going to hurt themselves reaching.
And then you bent over and
within a day, my back's killing. Can't pick up the kids and all that stuff. I'm like, here it is. I'm 40. Here
friend of mine, so Alex Mack, the 49ers center, he got married in Ireland recently, the other day. So the Limerick was basically full of NFL players for a week. They're all tweeting, George Kittle was there, Joe Thomas was there.
Oh, that's why they were all there.
Yeah, they were all there for Alex Mack's wedding.
Didn't know that.
Down in Adair Manor. Really nice place. But so Joe Thomas's, if you look at Joe Thomas's Twitter feed right now, it looks like it was sponsored by Tourism Ireland. Yeah. It's just like him on a massive tour doing all this random tourist stuff in Ireland. But a friend of mine was like, man, Joe Thomas is a few days younger than me. I was like, yeah, but you understand that means that for me and your brother, that means that he's actually significantly younger than we are. The dude's retired, going off on a jolly around Ireland, and he's a couple of years away from the Hall of Fame or whatever, and he's a lot younger than we are. So you and me in particular, Joe Thomas is 3 years younger than we are.
Plus jacked, really firm.
Oh, there's a lot of ways that he's in better situation than we are. He's richer than we are. He's taller than we are. Much better shape than we are.
Look, there's other ways.
On his way to the Hall of Fame, an actual Hall of Fame. You're going to some, Hall of Fame get together, and you're not even in the Hall of Fame. And that's not even the Pro Football Hall of Fame. That's your local regional high school or whatever.
It's college.
College, okay.
University.
Are you in a single Hall of Fame?
Lowell. Yes, I'm in my high school Hall of Fame.
High school, okay.
Yeah.
So you're at least in the high school Hall of Fame.
Shout out to the North Reading High Hornets. Yes.
I'm just saying, Joe Thomas is on his way to a Pro Football Hall of Fame.
And maybe this return to UMass Lowell could get the wheels in motion for the college Hall of Fame.
You got to show face, make him realize.
Yeah.
Oh, look.
I have not donated enough money to my alma mater.
It's another way that he's probably ahead of us. Yeah.
Yeah, he's probably donated more to Wisconsin. So, anyway, we digress.
Yeah, where the hell are we?
We're at number 6. Kenny Pickett goes to. Sorry, Mike. We got Mike working the mock draft sim over here. He's like, "What are they? We're just going off the rails here." But the Giants are back on the clock. So now, what's their biggest need after tackle is already fixed? Is it edge rusher?
Probably, yeah.
For the 12th straight year.
Yes.
The Giants have needed a linebacker and edge rusher since Parcells was head coach. This is
part of the problem.
Since Lawrence Taylor was there, they've needed an edge rusher.
This is part of the issue, I think, with drafting. For years, the Giants were one of those teams that drafted with templates. I need a guy. They almost had a cutout of a linebacker. It's stand here if you're above this height and above this width, you fit. If you're not, get out of here. You're not playing for this team. So the Giants were like, what is it, 6'5", 250 or whatever. If you're not 6'5", 250, you can't play linebacker for this team. Like, well, you're missing out on quite a lot of good players by doing that, you know? Maybe you should broaden the templates a little bit.
So I think edge is a fine one here as far as their biggest need. And I'm trying not to cheat, knowing that Thibodeau at 7. I think we did this in last week's mock or whatever. One of our mock drafts, we had them coming away with Evan Neal and Thibodeau. This time it would be Ike Ekwonu at tackle. I think Thibodeau would be the guy here to fill the biggest need.
So the closer we get to the draft, the more it sounds a lot like Trayvon Walker is going to get taken above Kayvon Thibodeau.
So here's what's going to happen with Trayvon Walker. It's going to sound like everybody at PFF is piling on him, but if we have listeners or viewers that follow a lot of us on PFF, it's going to sound like everybody at PFF is trashing him because we're all working with the same data here, right? And Walker's data, pure production data, looks nothing like a first-round profile, but he's got some of the most incredible workout numbers we've seen. Yeah. So it's like 99th percentile athlete,
right?
And third or fourth round production. I mean, that's just the bottom line. So I've already seen multiple people around PFF, like this is going to be one of our storylines and narratives. I can buy into, I can understand why people are talking themselves into Trayvon Walker, because I tried to explain last show, like people don't start with a baseline of data. They start with a baseline, like, does this guy fit height, weight, speed requirements? Is he a good enough athlete? And let's go to the tape. And when you watch the tape, you can convince yourself there's enough good plays on there that this dude's going to be special. So I could see the NFL take a Trayvon Walker over Kayvon Thibodeau. We've seen Jermaine Johnson go over Kayvon Thibodeau. I don't think Thibodeau's got the cleanest production profile either. He's not. Aiden Hutchinson does, but I think Thibodeau's number 2 in that whole mix. And I think once you get to Trayvon Walker, once you get to Jermaine Johnson, from a production standpoint, which again translates really well at the NFL level at that position, you're incurring a lot of risk.
The argument is that the Georgia defense schematically did not unleash Trayvon Walker to just rush the passer and get pressure and go nuts and, exploit the edge the way, Oregon did for Michigan did for Aiden Hutchinson.
So I've seen like Eric or whatever poo-poo that argument, basically saying, well, if he's that good, why would you scheme him to do other stuff?
Because everybody else on that defense is a first rounder.
Yeah, but it's kind of how this is Kirby Smart from the Nick Saban tree, from the Bill Belichick tree. And they are not necessarily, there was a point in Saban's recruiting life where he decided to go from like the big 200, the evolving, right? The 250-pound edge setter to like Tim Williams a few years ago, and Rashaan Evans was an edge rusher. So they started to go to undersized edges and all that stuff. But the crux of that scheme is kind of like set a hard edge, play the run first, and work as a unit, right? It isn't really a get up the field and just win.
Yeah.
So that, like, the argument's not wrong.
But there's also a dramatic difference between, like, the Oregon defense, right? Where it's like, hey, Thibodeau is by far our best player, so let's whatever we do, let's make sure this guy is in a great position to be, one-on-one and have as much production success as possible, because that's how we're winning. The Georgia defense, the best player, like, they're going to have a ton of first-rounders this year, and the best player on it isn't even draft eligible yet. Like, this defense it's insane how stacked this defense is. So they're not in the same position where they have to be like, oh, Trayvon Walker is this incredible athlete. He's going to go in the first round. He could be number 2 overall. Let's build the thing around him. They're like, no, we've got high first-round players like Jordan Davis, and we're not even putting him on the field in third downs because we're that stacked. Like, this is a different animal in terms of talent level on this defense than we've seen. That, like, the Georgia defense this year may very well be the most talented defense in college football history when all is said and done. At the very minimum, it's up there in the top 2 or 3. So it can and should behave differently in terms of how they're, like, scheming up one player. Because they don't need to do it the same way other teams do, because they've got first-round players everywhere.
And so I think all of that's fair, right? But when you're talking about taking a player in the top 10, that doesn't change the risk factor for me.
No, but it does. It should, though, change how you view the lack of production.
But then there's like a how much, right? So it's not like he was just a little unproductive.
Right.
Again, his profile from a production standpoint, if you just look at the grades and pass rush win rate and wins above average, which does weigh the run game heavily. This one metric, wins above average, which is the best indicator of future WAR, which is valuable, right, for edges.
And it weighs the run game heavily because in the college level, the run game is more important than the NFL level.
But even at the NFL level, WAR does focus
I understand.
on the run, right?
I'm explaining why wins above average would weight it more than something else, because the lower down the level of football you get, the more important the run game is.
Yes.
Therefore.
And Trayvon Walker's an excellent run defender. And even that number, wins above average, does not compare to either recent first-round prospects, recent elite prospects, or recent just guys who have had solid careers on the edge.
Yeah.
So all these, whether you explain it through the scheme or not, these are all reasons why you just don't know. Therefore, there's more risk. Therefore, give me the guy that I've seen do it more than the guy that I'm hoping will do it.
Right. No, I think that's entirely fair. My only point with all this is that I think you can watch tape and you can genuinely see that he is in a, what's the word, like a restrictive scheme. He's not being given the freedom to just, he's not being, I don't want to use the term like set up for success, because the defense was being set up for success.
Sure.
I guess that's the difference, is that Trayvon Walker wasn't being set up for success the way these other guys were, but the Georgia defense was being set up for success.
And it's not Kirby Smart. It's not Georgia's job to make Trayvon Walker look good for the NFL draft.
So when you look at it and you say, okay, Trayvon Walker had relatively pedestrian pass rushing production. His pass rush grade, 66 last year. His pass rush grade against sort of true pass sets, you strip out the crap, still 66. So it's not even like, against on the plays that weren't really helping him, he was bad, but on everything else. His win rate, 10%. That's pretty average, pedestrian. So all the numbers, but these numbers are being affected by the fact that he isn't being put in a position to just go play wide nine, rush the passer, get pressure, because that's what we want you to do. He was being asked to do different things. So it's very difficult. You actually have to go look at his tape and sort of parse out the occasional situation where he's given that sort of freedom and asked, can he do that? Like, that, I think, is very different to a guy that was given that opportunity and simply didn't produce.
So all that said, I feel like Walker's one of the more fascinating stories of this draft because of this difference in production and athleticism and all that stuff. For me, I'd go Thibodeau over him. I mean, we'll circle back. We'll probably draft Trayvon Walker somewhere in the first round because I'm not saying you cross him off the board or anything like that, but I would go Thibodeau here to fill the edge rusher need for the Giants.
Okay.
Why did you brought up Walker as a discussion point, or because you really wanted to put him in here?
A bit of both. I think at this point he's going to go ahead of Thibodeau.
So what are we doing here? What are we predicting?
Yeah, let's predict. Based off this premise of filling team needs, let's predict. I think teams are going to draft Walker ahead of them.
I think.
By the way, so the other element.
Who would love to have Thibodeau? The Giants at 7 would love to have Thibodeau. The Falcons at 8 would love to have him. I bet the Seahawks at 9 would love to have him. The Jets would love to have him either at 4 or 10. They're the ones saying Thibodeau's got too much crypto.
That's the thing. The other element of this is how much of the Thibodeau slide or the negative perception right now is manufactured crap. I mean, it's all manufactured crap in theory, right? Like, we're talking about the dude's cryptocurrency dragging him down. But my point being, how much of it is like real things NFL teams are thinking, but it's manufactured crap, or one specific NFL team is hoping that somebody else doesn't draft him and is putting out all of this crap about his cryptocurrency.
And there's probably kernels of truth in all of it, but you turn it into a big story and sometimes dudes.
I mean, you're a big, you buy all the pre-draft smoke.
No, that is not true.
You buy all of it. Everything that's put out pre-draft.
I pick my spots.
You buy all of it, lock, stock, and barrel.
I bought Tua.
Yeah.
No, I bought Herbert to the Dolphins.
Yeah. You buy all of it. Everything that comes out. You're like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. I'm in. So you must absolutely think that Thibodeau's on like a slide. in the
Thibodeau's
middle of
going
the first
like round 2. Yeah. He won't even get drafted.
So let's put Walker here.
All right. Trayvon Walker, because we're doing whatever we want here. Walker to the Giants at 7 to fill the edge rusher need. We were at a crisp pace, and then the Trayvon Walker pick always slows us down because there's a lot of information.
Right.
It's a lot to discuss here. Falcons are up at 8. Biggest need. Are we circling back to QB here?
I don't think that they need a QB this year because they got Marcus Mariota. I think that gives them a year. So then they need everything else. With their wide receiver.
So Mariota gives them a year, but Jared Goff doesn't give the Lions a year.
Yes.
Or he already gave the Lions a year.
Mariota is better than Goff.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah, he is. Come on.
I'm a Mariota guy, but they're in the same.
Come on.
They're in the same tier 3
Jared
bucket.
Goff. Mariota knows where the sun rises.
You just have this one bias against Super Bowl quarterback Jared Goff. Okay? Super Bowl
quarterback Jared Goff.
He's one win away from being Matthew Stafford.
What? No, he isn't.
Yeah.
No, stop it.
One win away from being Super Bowl champion.
Marcus Mariota needs a wide receiver desperately. Like
certainly
he needs air
does.
to breathe.
Certainly does.
The Falcons' 2 best wide receivers are a running back and a tight end.
Are we Garrett Wilson here?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, we are.
High volume receiver. Look, we're not going to give every team the same amount of love. We can't spend a half hour on every single team. Sometimes you do that with Trayvon Walker. But the Falcons are at 8. We're doing team need-based drafting. So the Falcons' biggest need, absolutely wide receiver after they've been depleted the last couple of years. So let's go Garrett Wilson at 8 to the Falcons. That puts the Seahawks up at 9. So is QB their biggest need here, Sam?
Kind of has to be, right? Drew Lock can. I mean, please
so
tell me you're on
Mariota
board.
buys you some time, but
Please
Jared
tell
Goff
me
and
you're
Drew
on
Lock
board
do
with
not.
the idea that Drew Lock is not at the same level as Marcus Mariota.
No, he's not.
Good.
The arguments here, though, the argument I would have made if I were you for the Falcons is where they are in the life cycle.
Tell me how to make my own arguments.
I will. The argument I would make for the Falcons that QB is not their biggest need is where they are in the life cycle of their rebuild. That your biggest need it's always quarterback, but it's not necessarily quarterback right now because I think you're starting fresh, right? If you're Atlanta. If you're Seattle, are you starting fresh? What are you doing? I mean, if you're Seattle, what are you really doing here?
I mean, it feels like they've blown the thing up, right? The getting rid of Russell Wilson obviously is a pretty strong statement. Cutting Bobby Wagner. I mean, this thing is they've hit reset, surely. Therefore, quarterback.
Yes.
More to the point, you can't go into a season with Drew Lock as your quarterback. I don't care what kind of crap you're putting out right now, but we love Drew Lock at draft time. Sure, there were a lot of people that quite like Drew Lock at draft time. On the other hand, we've since subsequently seen him play a reasonable amount of football in the NFL, almost all of which has been bad. So you probably can't be relying on him to be your starting quarterback.
Stone Forsythe and Jake Curran.
What?
Those are your starting tackles.
Yeah.
In Seattle.
Uh-huh.
So if we're talking biggest need, they at least have a quarterback who's fringe top 32. You're maybe in
fringe top 32.
Yeah, that's where Locke is.
Come on.
Yeah, he's QB like
40, maybe
30 to 37. He's in that range.
No, he's not.
Him or Trubisky? Locke or Trubisky?
Trubisky, easily.
Oh man, you really hate Drew Lock.
Are you out of your mind?
You really hate Drew Lock, huh?
Drew Lock, look at their grades.
They're not that dissimilar.
They really are.
There's 63s for every single year of either one of those QB's career is a 63, I think.
You prove this to you, aren't you?
I think it's a 63. I would argue that Seattle's biggest need might not be QB right now, and maybe they wait a year there. Because that's what I would let this thing marinate for a year.
This thing marinate for a year.
Let it marinate and
All
be
right.
bad.
Trubisky's grades every single year have ranged from 63 to 68. Drew Lock's have ranged from 58 to 63. Drew Lock's worse.
Fair. Good.
Done. You can't have Drew Lock as your starter. You can't do it.
So QB's the biggest need here for Seattle.
Yes.
Which puts who?
Who's your next QB? Who do you want? If you're Seattle, who do you think, which one of these guys is your QB? Sam Howell, Desmond Ridder, Matt Corral.
I think I'd go Ridder.
Ridder. Which one's going to hand the ball off most effectively to Rashad Penny for a week and a half before he breaks his hip?
See, then they might draft Sam Howell and QB/fullback.
You keep acting like they haven't had Russell Wilson for the last decade.
True.
Like this is the first rushing threat the Seahawks have had at quarterback.
Man, we're just filling needs here. So I would go Ridder. You're QB2, Ridder. Yeah. And the guy I would try to bank on a little upside here.
Seahawks fans are going to hate that one.
Oh, yeah. We have a lot of caveats before we post this mock draft into the ether here.
All right, the Jets are up again. We gave
Desmond
him a wide
Ridder
receiver
to the Seahawks at 9. So the Jets, we already got Drake London at wide receiver. Is their biggest need still corner?
Well, it's that
Or is
corner
it
or edge rusher debate again.
And I said I could convince myself it's edge.
I mean, I think honestly, I
Franklin
think they're
Myers.
kind of in the same spot. Franklin Myers is a good edge rusher. They say they're moving him inside more. He's played almost exclusively edge for them last season.
All I'm saying is, if you,
I also think Carl Lawson. Okay, Achilles pass rusher. It's definitely a concern. On the other hand, they have a ton of money tied up in him. He's going to play this year.
No, I would say if you're going pure needs here, though, DJ Reed's an outside corner, Bryce Hall's an outside corner. If you draft another outside corner, you're not really filling a need. You're just drafting another corner at a position that we think is really valuable. Whereas
Isn't
if
that
you're drafting
also true with edge?
it's a rotation. It's more of a rotational position, right?
Okay.
And I think the guy that you draft here is going to start over Franklin Myers anyway.
Franklin Myers? No.
Yeah.
He's good. If the guy you're drafting, he's probably starting over Carl Lawson until Lawson shows that he can come back from an Achilles injury.
No, I don't think so. Franklin Myers is fine, but I think they're looking for a better every down player.
Franklin Myers is good. He's not fine.
He's had a good year.
He's always been pretty good.
An 80 grade last year, yeah.
They're not starting somebody.
I'd argue that edge is a bigger need than corner right now.
I mean,
I would draft a corner.
That's fine, but I think you're out of your mind if you think they're benching Franklin Myers.
Are you okay to draft Thibodeau yet here?
Yeah.
Okay. Thibodeau to the Jets at 10 to fill the biggest need, edge, where he's going to start over John Franklin Myers.
No, he's not.
He is.
They're not benching Franklin Myers. They just gave him money, like decent money. They're
Lawson's
not benching
making $15 million a year. They're not benching him either.
He also blew out his Achilles.
Maybe we should have drafted a corner.
Man might not be able to move anymore.
But it's already been done. Thibodeau's up. Thibodeau to the Jets.
Franklin Myers up 50 pressures in each of the last 2 seasons.
I mean, we're just sitting here debating every single move, but the only thing you cannot debate is the quality pickup that is Manscaped this offseason. The leaders in below the waist grooming.
Below the weight.
Man, nailed it last time, but that was a little clunky.
Well, you put all your effort in the transition, then you overlooked him. You overlooked the actual read.
Reset. We're debating every single pick here, but the only true guaranteed quality pickup this season is Manscaped, the leaders in below the waist grooming. Look, we could post that on social now and say, look, Steve nailed it.
Except you just
with
ruined it
Manscaped's Performance Package 4.0, your skill position will be sleek and smooth enough for a sub-4 340. Support us and head to manscaped.com and use the exclusive code PFF. Do that right there at checkout. You get 20% off plus free shipping. Because of their ceramic blade and skin-safe technology, your nicks and snags will be reduced. And in the season of trimming the roster, Manscaped will make sure you're cutting the right players and not any important pieces to your fence. Look, fellas, don't fall off our draft board. The ladies out there think that long nose hair is a major turnoff.
I don't think that's specific to the ladies. I think everybody thinks that that's
Nobody likes the long nose
pretty
hair.
ridiculous and revolting.
That's where the Weed Whacker nose and ear hair trimmer comes in. That's your solution. Why not use the best tools for the job there as well? April's draft season, as you know, but it's also Testicular Cancer Awareness Month, and Manscaped has partnered with the Testicular Cancer Society to bring awareness to testicular cancer, men's health, and early cancer detection. So you can get 20% off and free shipping with the code PFF over at manscaped.com. It's 20% off with free shipping, manscaped.com. Use the code PFF. Turn your Mr. Irrelevant into a first-round pick with Manscaped.
Now that you've hit 40, have you reached the point where like the ear hair and the nose hair is getting out of control? Because that tends to happen to old people.
No. That started in my 30s.
Oh,
Not gonna
okay.
lie. Yeah.
Billy Connolly, old stand-up comedian, used to have this bit of, since I've hit my 40s or whatever it was, the ear and the nose hair has gone out of control. It's like, I'm sure the body knows what it's doing. I'm a little bit worried about what it is going to happen to me that's going to need long nasal hair to deal with, but all right, fine, let's roll with it.
That is funny. That is good. No, I started in my 30s. That's why you need the the Weed Whacker there. So, go check out manscaped.com with 20% off. Promo code's PFF. Where's my mock here? Where are we? Number 11.
Washington.
Washington Commanders are on the clock. What's their biggest need, Sam? Can't say QB.
I can't say QB. I also can't say a couple other things I was thinking of either. So that'll get me into trouble. No, I don't like. They're another. They probably do need a quarterback, but they're not going to get one. They're not going to go after one because that would upset Carson. Can't do that. Can't have that. Man's dressed like a hot dog with his giant yellow suit.
What's the round cutoff that you're allowed to draft a quarterback?
Like 4
without upsetting Carson.
Yeah, 4 highest
has to be day 3.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a Saturday pick.
Day 3. Can't be earlier than that, or he'll get mad.
Yeah, a day 2 pick is like, seat's getting warm. It's getting warm over here. I mean, to me, I look at Carson Wentz. I will repeat myself for the millionth time. When Carson Wentz is my quarterback, my biggest need is great playmakers.
There are a few teams where when you're going through and you're doing this, you're like, this roster's actually not in bad, like, they're not in bad shape. I came away from this, I'm like, where does Washington need, like, an impact day one starter? And you're like, it's not that many places. It's not a bad team.
It's a tricky one, though, because, like, one of those
Other
positions.
than the fact they have Carson Wentz at quarterback.
One of those positions is corner, where we're looking at William Jackson has had generally a good career when healthy. They just paid him a ton of money, and he's coming off a grade in the 50s.
Yeah.
Right? So
corner is where I settled on.
But I'm just saying, theoretically, William Jackson is a good player coming off a bad season. You're not sitting there saying major need.
No,
corner.
but there are other
That's the problem with Washington's roster.
Yeah, but their other spots are, Benjamin St-Juste, Kendall Fuller, like DJ Hayden is on that depth chart.
No, I'm gonna argue receiver with you big time here. Terry McLaurin's awesome.
Yeah.
You want De'Ami Brown as your 2 to go with Curtis Samuel as your inside-outside guy? I don't. De'Ami Brown's fine. He's a fine.
I don't want it, but I don't want Benjamin St-Juste playing either.
Kendall Fuller's really the starter there. Kicks into the slot. Fuller's really the starter.
Yeah.
And St-Juste and nickel.
And then you have William Jackson, who we don't know if he's going to be good in this system. Team.
I would say no. Carson Wentz. Make Carson Wentz good. Give me the next receiver on the board. Yes. It's receiver, Sam.
Okay.
It's Jameson Williams.
And
next
then,
receiver on the board.
What about the fact that Jamin Davis hasn't been good yet?
No. I mean, just let linebackers develop.
Let linebackers develop.
Yes.
Okay. So who are you taking at wide receiver?
Jameson Williams.
Huh. All right.
Or Chris Olave.
I
wanted either a deep threat or a dude who can get open, somebody that's going to complement Terry McLaurin.
Can I have unofficial 40-time Chris Olave?
I mean, official 40 time's still pretty good, too. 4.39.
It's not 4.26.
It's not 4.26 at all. But Olave, 22 miles an hour on the field. He reached it.
Okay.
According to some tracking data.
Huh.
Just saying. Olave's got speed, but not the speed and burst like Jameson Williams.
All right.
So, to me, that's the biggest need. Receiver for the Commanders. Jameson Williams, a compliment to Terry McLaurin. Make Carson Wentz throw the ball down the field. It's kind of like the Derek Carr thing a couple years ago. Get him a guy that's going to force him to be more aggressive throwing the ball down the field and not to the defense.
All right.
Yeah. All right, so Washington, look at that. Stepped up there. Won that battle. Vikings on the clock. Biggest need.
Corner. Desperate.
They're bringing it back all the old guys, though.
Yeah.
They bring back Patrick Peterson?
Yes. They desperately need cornerbacks, even with Patrick Peterson there.
What about O-line?
I mean, they could use some offensive linemen. Like Garrett Bradbury is still scheduled to start at center. That's not great.
Linderbaum.
They keep bringing back they keep signing all these people. You're like, how? Why? Austin Schlottman? Really? Why?
Everybody needs a Schlottman somewhere.
I don't think they do. I honestly don't think that's true.
They've identified him as a backup interior offensive lineman to target.
So right now, their cornerback group, Patrick Peterson, who just had a grade at 63 and, didn't look good. Chandon Sullivan, Chris Boyd, Nate Hairston, Harrison Hand. This is Parry Nickerson, Cameron Dantzler. This is not a group of cornerbacks you're comfortable starting.
So we have just gone, because of this need-based mock, here's who's still on the board, by the way. Kyle Hamilton.
Yep.
Derek Stingley. Mm-hmm. Charles Cross.
Yep.
All the corners, Trent McDuffie, Sauce Gardner. They're all still on the board.
Yeah.
Because we're just filling needs.
Right.
Right? And, let this be a lesson in the danger of just filling needs across the board. If every team did it, some team that's not need-based drafting is going to get some good football players. That's how the player falls to 17 to the Chargers a few years ago. So anyway, Vikings at 12. We're establishing corner as their biggest need. Now, would you go Derek Stingley or Sauce Gardner? To me, those are the two guys that I would look at. As much as I love Trent McDuffie, I'm looking at Stingley or Gardner here.
Yeah, I think that's the discussion. I mean,
since we're all doing our own boards, I love Stingley, but I might be ready to go Sauce as cornerback 1. Did I already declare that here on the pod the other day?
I don't know.
Sauce is cornerback one.
Stingley's the guy with the upside. Like, that season that he had in 2019 was one of the best seasons we've ever seen from a corner in college.
Yep.
And that, like, he has the guy that's already shown potential to be a top 5 NFL cornerback. Sauce Gardner, I don't think has shown that, but his floor has shown to be significantly higher than Stingley, and it's been consistent, and he hasn't given up a touchdown in college football, and he has the length, and he has the size, and it turns out he has the speed as well with his 4.4 combine. So I think it's sort of safety versus upside, basically, with the two. Which do you value more?
I'm leaning Sauce here, man. That's my top guy.
Okay. I think there's probably some value to putting him on a team or putting him in a room with Patrick Peterson, a guy who has got experience of being a weirdly oversized corner. You know?
Yeah.
Patrick Peterson's a big dude to play corner for his entire career, and kind of...
He's just such a special athlete, though.
I know, but like, you would think that he's got at least some tips and tricks of how to, like...
So we'll take Ahmad Gardner for the tips and tricks.
I'm not saying that's the reason you do it, but I'm saying that there's probably a useful connection there of when you bring in a guy like Sauce Gardner, saying, hey, Patrick Peterson is a massive corner that's had success for his entire career, understanding how to play with a body type like that. Let's see what he can impart in terms of wisdom.
All right, let's do that. Sauce Gardner to the Vikings at 12. We're filling the biggest needs here.
Of course, the flip side there is Derek Stingley's an LSU guy, so there's an LSU connection.
There is an LSU connection for another big, long corner. Let's do a quick reset here. We've got, again, needs-based drafting. We're just forgetting about value. We're going with each team's biggest need, talking through what the need is and who the best fit is, given that. So Jaguars at 1, go tackle Evan Neal. Lions, QB Malik Willis. Texans, edge Aiden Hutchinson. Jets, wide receiver Drake London. Giants go Ike Ekwonu, the tackle, at 5. Panthers, QB Kenny Pickett. Giants, edge Trayvon Walker. Falcons, wide receiver Garrett Wilson. Seahawks, QB Desmond Ridder at 9. Jets come back with Kayvon Thibodeau, the edge, at 10. Commanders at 11, wide receiver Jameson Williams. And then the Vikings at 12 go Sauce Gardner, the corner, out of our hometown, Cincinnati. Puts the Texans back up on the clock. They've got all the needs. First time around, we gave him Aiden Hutchinson, the best player on the board. So could we do that again?
It's funny. A purely need-based mock draft appears to work out spectacularally well for the Houston Texans. They end up.
It works for any team that doesn't just fill their top needs, assuming other teams do it.
They end up with Aiden Hutchinson, number 1, and then you have a choice of, like, you know, the Charles Cross, Kyle Hamilton, Derek Stingley. This is awesome for them.
To me, it's between Kyle Hamilton or Derek Stingley here for the Texans.
I think, Hamilton was a guy who, up until recently and relatively pedestrian 40 times, was being put to the Texans at 3 overall. If they end up with him at 13, having snagged Aiden Hutchinson at 3, it's like Christmas.
There were reports coming out of Pro Day that Hamilton was running in the 4.7s.
So the quote-unquote official time at his pro day, I'm not even sure who throws that out there.
It's probably the best scout.
The best scout?
Yeah, it's like whoever's...
The seniority?
Yes, the senior scout from all teams. Gil Brandt is the official 40 time at all pro days.
Yeah, whoever the official guy was threw out like a 4.56 or something, which is like 300ths faster than his combine time, and then everybody else. Huh?
Who had an official 4.56 when everyone else is in the 4.7?
That's what I'm saying. So whatever the official time was that got put out, like I said, I don't even know what that is. They were like 4.56. Oh, it's faster than his. Great. Everybody else that was there was like, we had him in like the 4.7s. So he ran a 4.6 essentially flat at the combine, which was immediately a time that everyone was like, ooh, I thought he was faster than that, given all the tape and the range and these plays from center field. And then apparently went slower at his pro day by like 1/10 of a second. So all of a sudden, at the very minimum, you're looking at a guy and you're like, he just didn't have the speed we're looking for. Do you trust the tape enough? I just think that's enough to not, like, you're already talking about a guy, safety, position value, number 3 overall. And now you add the fact that he might not be that fast into it, and you're almost certainly watching some kind of Kyle Hamilton slide versus when we thought he was going to go in the top 5.
I mean, that's why you're hearing more Trayvon Walker at 2 for the Lions, because previously we were thinking maybe is Kyle Hamilton going to go at 2? Like, where's he going to go? 2 or 3 or whatever?
Yeah, those teams that were potentially that could talk themselves into.
I understand. If you're going to draft a safety in the top 5 or 10, everything. He better check every single box.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. So at 13,
hell yeah,
Kyle Hamilton.
Yep.
All right. Kyle Hamilton to the Texans. He'll play that, split safety when they play cover 2. They mix it up. He can do everything that they're looking for there. That puts the Ravens up at 14. Now, what's their biggest need?
Interior defensive line.
It is.
Yeah.
I agree. Because they don't have Calais Campbell on there. They haven't really gotten the development from some of their recent draft picks.
Brought back Michael Pierce. Fine. They have Derek Wolfe. This is not a group that you're comfortable with.
Madubuike, again, has been, an okay rotational player, basically at this point. So on our board, when we're looking at interior defensive line, fit matters here too. So you have Devontae Wyatt and you have Jordan Davis. They're the top 2 interior defensive linemen, both from Georgia, both completely different players. You have Wyatt as more of your upfield penetrator, and as we know, Jordan Davis is your, only 3 dudes on the planet who, are 340 pounds who can run 4.8.
Yeah.
Or maybe the only one dude on the planet that can do that. Who knows? So Ravens, instinctively, as far as who's the better fit for the Ravens, I'm thinking Jordan Davis initially.
This is a little bit like the Stingley versus Sauce Gardner argument. I think you're choosing safety versus upside. I will say that I think Baltimore is arguably the best single environmental destination for Jordan Davis. If Jordan Davis landed in Baltimore, I don't think you could ask for a better environment for him to actually realize the potential. Yeah. That being said, it's still a gamble. Devontae Wyatt right now is a better football player than Jordan Davis.
So, look, you can make this argument both ways, right? When we talk about Jordan Davis, if you leave him one-on-one, he's going to deposit some centers and guards into the quarterback's lap. And given how often the Ravens blitz, that could open up those one-on-ones for Davis as a pass rusher. On the other hand, if you give Devontae Wyatt one-on-ones as a pass rusher, the guy just wins, right? He's a good, explosive, 315-pound pass rusher. So that works out for both of those guys.
Wyatt's going to live in the backfield. He has already shown the capacity to play snaps, a lot of them. I just think Jordan Davis is a total projection.
Would you lean Wyatt here?
I would draft Wyatt above Jordan Davis this high.
I just feel like the Ravens are one of those teams. Maybe I'm just overthinking the fact because they had Brandon Williams and Michael Pierce for so long. To use the big dudes to stop the run. Jordan Davis slots in there, learns how to play a little nose from Michael Pierce. We've talked about Davis being 340, but kind of playing like a 5 technique too, and playing in the Ravens can move them all along the defensive line. I can see the argument for either player here, but they're 2 completely different types of players.
Yeah.
I can go with Wyatt because I would draft him higher anyway, even though I'm talking myself into Davis as a fit for the Ravens.
Well, so we've set this precedent of this is what we think teams would do. What do you think the Ravens would do? I would draft Wyatt ahead of Davis, but I don't know that other teams. I don't know that teams would. Other teams,
My feeling is the Ravens would lean more toward our analysis that the on-field production. They would weigh the on-field production more than just the pure upside of a Jordan Davis. I don't think they would get sucked into what this guy could be as much as other teams, and go with the guy who's done it more often, which is Devontae Wyatt.
Okay.
Ravens fans are going to be all over me.
Probably.
My Ravens would never pass on Jordan Davis in this situation, but they are here.
Okay.
Let's go Devontae Wyatt.
Done.
To the Giants. To the Ravens here at 14. Now Ravens fans are really mad. Call them the Giants. It's insulting. All right, Wyatt to the Ravens to fill their biggest need on the interior of the defensive line. That puts the Eagles up on the clock. Biggest need. So we got 3 biggest needs to fill here. Pick 15, 16, and, of course, 19. What's their biggest need?
I think edge rusher, linebacker, then receiver or corner, maybe, for Philadelphia.
I think corner's up. I think linebacker, if you just were listing needs, have to get better at linebacker at some point.
Yeah.
If you look at cornerback, though, Darius Slay on one side, Avonte Maddox, whether or not you want him to play inside or out. Zach McPherson is their other starter. You could easily make the argument that it's corner. They're going to pick here at 15 and 16. If you go linebacker and corner for the Eagles, I think you're filling two big needs, and
linebacker, I think, is definitely their biggest need.
So everybody's essentially mocked Devin Lloyd.
Yeah, that one,
the Eagles
it makes sense. It
Let's
fits
lock
their
that
biggest
in.
need. Yeah, Devin Lloyd, done.
And then I would take the linebacker first because you save a little bit of money, right, over time with the line. If you're going to go corner and linebacker, you do the cheaper position first.
How much money are you saving by doing that?
A couple $100,000. A couple $100.
Yeah.
Devin Lloyd at 15. So we'll go Devin Lloyd, Utah linebacker at 15 to the Eagles. I mean, I think starting corner is the spot here.
Stingley or McDuffie?
So this is an interesting one because I think McDuffie, to succeed, almost has to play, but his best fit is an Eagles type of system, right? They're going to play, soft zone, keep everything in front of them, don't have to play press as much. It limits your height, and you just fly around as a zone corner, and Trent McDuffie is a great fit for the Eagles system.
Do they have a bigger need at safety than corner?
Well, yeah, so Anthony Harris is back, and who are they losing?
McDougald.
Who am I thinking of? Their other McLeod.
That McLeod. I always get
Rodney
those two
McLeod's
confused.
gone. So you have Kayvon Wallace maybe filling in. I liked Wallace coming out of Clemson, but he's hasn't played great so far. I don't think safety's a bigger need than corner, though. Tay Gowan they brought in, who he liked last year, but didn't really stick with Arizona. I mean, corner is a huge question mark unless you think Avonte Maddox is just like locked in as the starter on the outside. But I think McDuffie's a lot like Maddox, inside-outside flexibility and all that stuff. It'd be tough to pass on Stingley just because I envision Stingley in more of a man-heavy type of system. So that might be what limits me picking him here with the Eagles. But I think corner would be I think that's their biggest need after linebacker here.
Okay.
They would probably argue edge with Brandon Graham getting older.
Well, their edge thing is but
they brought back Derek Barnett too. They've got 4 legit solid players.
Graham's gotten old. Derek Barnett just hasn't been very good,
and they re-signed him.
Yeah. Josh Sweat has been fine, but they haven't really trusted him in a bigger role. Hassan Reddick, they signed in free agency. He's more of a one-trick pony in terms of edge rusher, speed guy. It's not that it's terrible. It's just that we've come from this world of Philadelphia having 7 guys up front that can get legit pressure. And you can make the same argument inside, right? Like Javon Hargrave, Milton Williams, who they drafted. Fletcher Cox just isn't the same guy. They brought him back on a cheaper deal. We've gone from this world where you had 7 legitimate guys that could get real pressure over the course of a season to now you have 1. Hassan Reddick will get pressure. Fletcher Cox is fine, but he's really declining at this point. Javon Hargrave was really good as a pass rusher, disastrous in the run game last year. Milton Williams remains to be seen. It's just the entire group is suddenly a question mark as opposed to before where it was an unquestioned strength.
Edge was easier to see. Before they re-signed Derek Barnett, you could easily talk yourself into Graham older, Sweat finishing up his tenure here.
What about wide receiver?
Yeah, I mean that's they've drafted a first rounder the last 2 years. You have Devontae Smith, but opposite him,
only one of them is good.
Yeah, Jalen Reagor, Zach Pascal, John Hightower. They've tried Arcega-Whiteside.
I would argue that wide receiver is actually a bigger need, certainly than the front 7.
I think it's receiver or corner for the Eagles here.
I think given
have we even been looking at the running back position for teams?
Probably not.
No.
Darius Slay and Avonte Maddox, I think, is better than Devontae Smith and whoever else. So I would say wide receiver is a bigger need.
Oh boy, then we'll circle back and get corner. All right, so you made this ridiculous argument that a guy like Chris Olave, who's really good at getting open, the one thing that you love in receivers, is bad for the Eagles and Jalen Hurts.
What I said at all, but sure.
That's what you said.
No,
you said Olave was not a good fit.
What I said is a guy that brings a different skill set is a better pick, all things being equal, than a guy who shares a similar skill set, and therefore the problem with the Eagles... I would
never misquote you or misrepresent your takes.
The problem with the Eagles receiving core right now is Jalen Hurts. So in order to move the Jalen Hurts needle, you need to show him something different. I don't think simply adding a similar player who's also going to get open is going to he's not pulling the trigger on the passes that are already open.
Maybe it's just a development thing. Get him here in year 3. He'll start hitting open receivers more.
Sure, that tends to happen. Yeah. Year 3 is when the quarterback suddenly goes, "Oh, that open guy down there, I'm going to throw him the football."
When you have 2 open guys, you double your chances of hitting an open guy.
Do you?
Yeah. Chris Olave is the next guy on our board, and then Treylon Burks. There's a drop-off, I think, after Olave.
It's Olave.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, yeah.
I'm just saying, we're going to like drag you kicking and screaming here with the Olave pick.
My point was simply if you have Olave versus a Drake London or a Jameson Williams, take the guy that has a slightly different skill set.
All right, so now Chris Olave, lock it in, 16, filling the biggest need, which is receiver. I have a feeling we'll still have corner. Well, I think we'll draft a corner at 19 for the Eagles. So they're going to get Devin Lloyd and Chris Olave at the 2 picks for the Eagles. That puts the Chargers up on the clock. And what's their biggest need? My initial thought is right tackle.
Yeah.
And the other question, though, is it interior defensive line?
No.
Not necessarily because they've added players, but is their biggest need a Jordan Davis type?
No.
Why not?
Because they have added players along the defensive line. They won't be as bad up front as they were
but it's
last year.
Sebastian Joseph Day and it's Austin Johnson. Like those
It's also Khalil Mack who's going to dominate in the run game.
Yeah, I understand. But I'm talking about a lot of the offseason chatter. Okay, we play a lot of too high. We would need to be able to defend the run with fewer players. Nobody fits that bill better than Jordan Davis, or at least, theoretically, as far as what they're capable of doing. Eating up 2 blockers, holding the point.
Yeah, I mean, that's all nice. It's great. They can certainly upgrade up front. On the other hand, right tackle right now.
And right guard, to be honest.
Yeah, sure. Right tackle in particular. The combination of right guard and right tackle right now is Storm Norton and Trey Pipkins, neither of whom can play for you. So, and by the way, your quarterback is Justin Herbert. You probably need to make sure that you don't get him killed. So, absolutely, they need offensive line desperately.
So Charles Cross is the top tackle on the board. I feel like we've pigeonholed him into he's a left tackle only.
Well, he's never played right tackle. On the other hand, we've said before, a couple of shows ago when we were talking about this, you should generally feel reasonably confident that a college player can flip sides of the line as he's moving into the NFL and be okay with it. So it makes you, if it should be a tiebreaker, right? If you're talking about 2 guys that you think are really, really close, and one of them has played right tackle before and done it well, and the other one hasn't, pick the guy that's played right tackle and move him over.
The next guy on the board is Bernard Ryman from Central Michigan, also a left tackle, and hasn't played right tackle.
And has barely played left tackle, let alone
Yeah.
right tackle. So my point being, okay, if you're separating Charles Cross from the top 2 tackles, Evan Neal, who went number 1 in this draft, and Ike Ekwonu, who went 5, fine. But we're now at pick number 17, so it's Charles Cross time.
All right, Charles Cross to the Chargers at 17. He's gonna move over to right tackle for the Chargers. It's a need-based mock. We're taking the top need on each team. Puts the Saints at 18 on the clock here. So where do we look at the Saints' top needs? Is it QB? They re-signed Jameis Winston. I mean, long-term, it's QB.
Yeah.
Short-term,
I think QB is in the same bucket as the Mariota thing. I think they bought themselves a year to not have to shoehorn a quarterback in there.
what do we think is going to happen with Michael Thomas? I mean, if he's back and it's Michael Thomas and Marcos Callaway, bring back Tre'Quan Smith, the great Kevin White's there.
The great.
Yeah. Huh. To me, receiver's still a thing, but if we're talking biggest need right now, they just lost Teron Armstead. It has to be left tackle. I mean, this is one of those things about the Saints' rebuilding effort. They haven't had to think about tackle since drafting Ryan Ramczyk 5 years ago. But that's there's other places along the roster I'd like to upgrade, but left tackle, they've got James Hurst, who filled in admirably, but I don't think I want to go into the season with James Hurst as my starting tackle.
Okay.
You've been trying to talk yourself into James Hurst recently.
A little bit. I just think it's not a disaster if they have to start with him, given what we've seen from him.
What about number 2 corner? Paulson Adebo, drafted him last year.
He played pretty well last year.
Yeah, he was fine. But I mentioned last year, one of the most important draft picks in the draft as a third rounder. Who they needed it. They needed him. They did sign Bradley Roby just before the season, but they have Roby and Adebo over there.
I think it's
James Hurst has essentially established himself as a swing tackle throughout his career.
Or, a pinch starting tackle if you need him to.
That's what a swing tackle is. Yeah.
Not really. That's
it's a
your
guy
choice.
Who, in a pinch, is going to start at left or right tackle.
Starting left tackle or number 2 wide receiver, assuming Michael Thomas comes back. There's also the possibility that Michael Thomas doesn't come back and is playing somewhere else.
Yeah, that's what I started with the Michael Thomas discussion because in my head, when I'm like Saints' biggest needs, I'm always thinking receiver. But are we supposed to look at the value? Like the board is getting depleted at receiver. And I would say I want James Hurst to be a swing tackle, not a starting tackle.
And there have been the Michael Thomas thing has been very quiet recently. Like there hasn't been a ton of trade talk. It hasn't been. We went for a while that Michael Thomas is done, and then it's kind of just quieting down.
And you got to do well by Jameis here, and Michael Thomas being a part of the team is probably better by Jameis. So let's go tackle.
Okay.
Bernard Ryman's the next tackle on the board. You also have Trevor Penning from Northern Iowa. I would go Ryman. I mean, I would trust the board here.
Trust the board.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so Bernard Ryman, Central Michigan tackle. He's going to be the pick for the Saints at 18, filling their biggest need over at left tackle. Puts the Eagles back on the clock. I still think their biggest need's corner.
So Stingley or McDuffie.
Man, this is where I tend to overthink things.
Yeah.
I would say the overthinker in me is like, man, I want to see McDuffie in this Eagles scheme.
Yeah, but come on. We're at pick number 19. Can we
But
pass
you're
up
picking
Derek Stingley at this point?
You never pass on a potential blue chip player like
say-
Derek Stingley. That is
so
an
say
axiom.
the Cleveland Browns.
That's what the Browns said. You never pass on a blue. I wonder if that meant running backs too, even in the first round, because that was that's from like Paul DePodesta's desk. That is straight from Moneyball to the Browns to the to the world here. Never pass on a blue, but I will believe that. Don't pass on Derek Stingley. So Stingley's going to go to 19 here.
Yep.
In this mock that is needs based only, goes to the Eagles at 19. Also looks like a best player available pick, but it's because it matched their need.
It works well.
All right, the Steelers are up at 20.
Yeah.
What's their biggest need?
I mean, it's QB, isn't it? Steelers fans are going to hate this.
No, Mitch Trubisky is buying you. If Mariota,
No, God, he's not.
If Mariota and Winston are buying you time,
Come on.
and you've already declared Trubisky better than Locke,
Yeah, because Locke is terrible.
Trubisky's buying you time
You're rolling into the season with Mitch Trubisky as your quarterback.
this season. I mean, yeah, I would sacrifice a year.
Sacrifice a year. They don't sacrifice years in Pittsburgh. They've never had a losing season since Tomlin took over.
Oh, they can go 8-8. Well, I mean, you can't, but you can go 8-8.
In the AFC?
Go 8-8-1.
In the AFC North? All right, well, if you don't want to throw a pick at quarterback and you want to roll in there with Mitchell Trubisky, what are you doing?
I think the secondary has been a huge need for them for a while. They may think that they fixed linebacker a little bit with Miles Jack, but linebacker's been a serious issue there. I mean, I like what they did at corner with Levi Wallace, Akilla Witherspoon. That's enough to, buy some time there at corner, I would say. Safety, it's Minkah Fitzpatrick along with Carl Joseph. Big Carl Joseph fan 4 years ago. I don't know if he's a starting caliber safety at this time. You could say that is a spot. They've made some moves, enough moves on the offensive line. Here's the other thing. I don't trust Dan Moore at left tackle. If you're just talking pure needs, left tackle. Dan Moore, 4th-round rookie last year. Was it 3rd or 4th round? I keep getting confused. 4th-round rookie last year for the Steelers. Grades in the 50s. Yeah, he might develop, but Penning, who we did give to the Steelers a couple mock drafts ago, Trevor Penning fills the immediate need of left tackle. The other thing about me saying maybe not quarterback is, am I cheating in this? Like, because there's a few QBs off the board.
Right.
But yeah, like the biggest need for the Steelers is franchise quarterback.
Okay. Let's give him a quarterback.
So per the rules of the mock draft, we have to give them a quarterback.
So Sam Howell or Matt Corral.
Oh, man. Trust the board.
Which says Sam Howell.
Sam Howell to the Steelers.
I get the impression in doing these, and in particular when I had quarterback rankings that had Corral lower than most people, I don't know if that's just a backlash from that, or if like Matt Corral is emerging as like QB 2/3 in the general zeitgeist consensus.
Again, this isn't exactly the 25% argument, but this is the, like, if you follow enough people that are talking about the NFL draft, you can get any ranking of quarterbacks.
Right, but in particular, it feels like Matt Corral is being ranked higher than Sam Howell at the moment, would be my overall point.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see people wanting Corral. I thought Corral just kind of got overlooked in the entire process because every other top quarterback went to the Senior Bowl and went through a lot of the senior stuff.
I mean, I also know there's an NFL team sitting there going, "Yeah, we like Matt Corral. We take him at in the 40s." Oh, okay.
Yeah. I could see people buying into baller Matt Corral. Dude just gets it done. So did Sam Howell, though, last year. So what do we got here? Who's best for the Steel City? My son Harry would take the worst player.
Yeah.
That's how he drafts for the Steelers.
Okay.
Harry's mock draft is scroll to the bottom and take DeMarvin Leal, bottom player on the best available list, or Breece Hall.
I don't know if we're
another running back.
If we're doing this on the basis that this is what would happen, I think right now more people would draft Corral over Howell, even though the PFF board has him the other way around.
The other potential biggest need is center. We don't have a cough button. Sorry. You could argue center.
You could.
But not over QB, right?
I mean, that's not the rules, right? It's biggest need.
It's biggest need. So it's QB. All right. Sam Howell. What's the chat say? Sam Howell or Matt Corral here?
I mean, the argument is essentially, is it worth going from Trubisky to Matt Corral or Sam Howell, or at starter for center to Linderbaum?
Yeah, I mean, realistically, if you're taking the fourth quarterback off the board, I would just pass. Probably, unless not the entire pick on the quarterback, right? Just pass my pick.
I abdicate this pick. I want no interest in it.
I don't need any picks.
Wake me when the second round comes up.
I'll see you next year. I would probably pass on QB if it's the fourth quarterback there.
Remember, so Kendrick Green was their Marquise Pouncey replacement last year. It didn't go so well. They did bring in Mason Cole, who, I mean, played okay for the Vikings last year. Not exactly like a confident starter going forward, but they've chipped away at it. I still think I think it's either quarterback or defense, and honestly, pretty much anywhere on defense.
All right, well, I'm going with we've got 31 votes in the YouTube chat. 55% Sam Howell over Matt Corral at the moment.
Okay. You want to do that then?
I guess so.
I will say that I'm pretty sure I gave him Sam Howell in that previous mock and people hated it. Yeah. All right, go. Sam Howell it is. Done. Done. It's locked.
I clicked it.
Done.
Mike's about to click it. He already clicked it. Sorry, it's in. Sam Howell to the Steelers. Puts the Patriots up on the board. We do need to update the mock draft sim. Is wide receiver one of their needs? Maybe not. Devontae Parker has been traded to the Patriots. We broke that down for a good 10 minutes. A good crisp 10 minutes on the PFF NFL Daily today. Got a lot of good emails from people over the last few days. And a lot of good screenshots of people subscribing to the Daily and the PFF NFL podcast. Keep sending those in. We sent out one free Edge subscription at the end of about 3-4 shows ago. We'll do that again this week, this Thursday. Another free Edge subscription if you have a screenshot of a subscription to the Daily in the PFF NFL podcast. There's a leader in the clubhouse because the last guy who won said he signed up his wife unknowingly.
Yeah.
There is a guy who said if we read his email, which could come on Wednesday, he'll sign up like all of his employees and immediate family and all that. I mean, we'll get like 50 free downloads added to the millions here.
Sweet.
So we could be bribed. We could be had.
Also remember just to send us emails. Like without, screenshots are great.
No strings attached. Just emails,
but
NFL podcast.
Questions, thoughts, whatever. Musings, NFL podcast at pff.com. Those are what's going to fuel certainly the midweek show and potentially further as we get into the offseason.
So the New England Patriots are up at 21.
Jackpot for them.
Why is that?
Well, they're a cornerback desperate team, and they've been a team that's getting linked to Andrew Booth a lot from Clemson. If McDuffie's there at 21, hell yeah.
Now, is this because they're pivoting to more of a zone-heavy scheme?
No, it's because they need a cornerback, and he's a really good cornerback.
Man, so we're just putting the wrong Stingley's gone to the wrong scheme with the Eagles. McDuffie's going to go to the wrong system here with the Patriots.
Why is this the wrong system?
He's got to play zone.
So?
It's the best zone corner.
Huh?
It's the best zone corner in the draft.
Right?
Him and Sauce.
So why? What?
So McDuffie going to New England, they want to play press man. They're not. You don't want to do it with little Trent.
They're pivoting away from press man.
They have Jalen Mills and
Terrence
Mitchell as their starters.
Yeah.
And Malcolm Butler back, actually. Malcolm Butler's probably gonna start for them if he's back in shape.
Right. McDuffie.
Is that their biggest need over edge?
Yes.
Josh Uche and Matthew Judon.
Yes.
You're just going best player available here.
I'm also biggest need by a mile. How can you think that this is not their biggest need?
Because they brought Malcolm Butler back.
So? What's Malcolm Butler done lately?
He hasn't been beat. Didn't get beat all last year.
Right.
Didn't even start the last time he was a Patriot. Didn't play.
Right.
That's a good point. All right, Trent McDuffie to the Patriots because Malcolm Butler was benched for the last game that he played with the Patriots. Actually, didn't play. Trent McDuffie filling the Patriots' biggest need remaining here at corner, edge, and linebacker. They did a little bit of work there here in the offseason. The other argument could have been guard, but
stop.
Packers' biggest needs receiver.
Yep.
Right?
Unquestionably. No.
Is it QB?
It's not. It's unquestionably receiver.
All right, I can't overuse the same joke here. That almost killed a guy.
Yeah.
That was a funny tweet. Somebody was benching, listening to us. When I suggested QB for Packers, he almost dropped the bar on himself or something. Is that right?
That's funny. I almost killed myself benching the other day as well for a totally different reason.
Not because of any jokes I made.
No, I went too high in the bar and almost died.
Is anybody spotting?
No,
obviously not.
But I had the the safety things, the guard, whatever, the catchers.
Yeah,
which is pretty much the only thing that stopped me dying. Yeah,
man,
I hadn't benched for ages, right?
Weekend.
I think my technique or whatever for like the actual it's crappy, so I can never go as high on the bench as I think that I should be able to relative to what I can do with just single dumbbell presses.
Yeah,
I hadn't benched for ages. I was like, let's give benching a shot, just to finish off this training session. And I was like, let's see if I can match a personal best, just a 1 rep max deal. So I put up I'm not going to give my personal best because it's a terrible number.
That's why it's personal.
Right. My personal best. Put it up, did it easily. I was like, all right, let's throw in 10 more pounds, see how we do. Just to set a record now, 10 pounds, did it fine. Then I got greedy, and I wanted the next number up. And that's when I nearly died.
What's like the percentage increase of 10 pounds?
I don't want to tell you that because then you can work out what the number is. I'm not an idiot.
No, you're not, I guess. I was unable to get that out of you.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't bench either. So.
Well, you and I have the same problem, albeit by different levels of magnitude, right? It's the long arm issue.
Yeah.
We both have long arms relative to our size, and that makes pushing the bench quite tricky.
It's not great.
You get these people, like stumpy little people like Rick and, Austin, they're tiny little arms. They're only pushing it like 6 inches. It's easy. Anybody can bench with that arm length.
Yeah, I'm not built to lift anything.
That's why you look at the combine, right? The guy with like the record is Stephen Paya with his like 28-inch arms. He's not moving the bar very far.
Yeah, it's a stupid part of the workout.
Right. Massive long arm people that you have to the bar's moving like an extra foot.
It's just not fair.
It's not.
It's not fair at all. So I'm glad you set your personal record or got there and then didn't die.
And then almost died.
Yeah. I'm happy that you didn't die though.
Yeah. Well, that's what that's what the savers are there for.
That's good.
If you don't have a spotter, those things will save your life.
So the Packers are up with their biggest need, Sam.
Yeah, wide receiver.
Next receiver on the board is Traylon.
So I think this is where wide receiver gets tricky and interesting. The PFF board has them in order: Traylon Burks from Arkansas, Sky Moore, Western Michigan, Jahan Dotson, Penn State, George Pickens, Georgia. I think you can probably also throw Christian Watson from North Dakota State into that group as well. But this is where I think it gets kind of weird and chaotic, and you're kind of picking your favorite player or style. I have rewatched Traylon Burks since he ran like a hippo.
Like a hippo?
Yeah.
It was 4.55.
Yeah.
It's all right.
He got slower at his pro day, though. No, it didn't. So he didn't even – he looked at 4.55.
Sat on it.
Yeah, and was like, yeah, I don't think I can get better than that, and just didn't run at the pro day.
Maybe he bulked up.
I think that's a little bit of a red flag. Oh, so we talked about this before, and I was like, who can you think of a single wide receiver who had like weight issues, who actually was good?
And we came up with
basically nobody.
USC Mike Williams.
For like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Somebody came up with Alshon Jeffrey, which I think is actually a good answer and might be the only answer. Still, the point being that, like, if that's the one, that's a little bit of a worry.
Burks is interesting when you watch him because I think there were times I noted he just seems like he's completely off balance. Like, Alshon Jeffrey, if the ball was near him, much like we described Drake London and Devontae Parker, like,
Burks,
Alshon Jeffrey just wins at the catch point. Burks has some highlight reel wins at the catch point. I don't think he's as consistent there.
No, he's not. And he's not a contested catch monster. He also, so when you look at his tape, it's full of these plays where, if you give him a crease, he's gone. It looks like 4.3 speed. When you rewatch it with the context of knowing he's a 4.5 guy, you can kind of see reasons why that's happening. Like some of those plays are against some of the worst competition he's going up against. He stiff arms a couple of guys rather than actually beats them for speed to an angle, all those kinds of things. My point being, I'm lower on Burks now than I was when we started this process. Sky Moore, I think, ends up becoming more of a versatile inside-outside slot type of player than a pure outside number one guy, which is what they really need. Jahan Dotson, I guess similar bucket. George Pickens is the guy that I start to get interested in if I'm Green Bay, because I think he has that number one X-receiver skill set that could function. Christian Watson to a degree as well, but I think he's just less clean.
Pickens, again, if he doesn't play just 63 snaps last year, he was awesome as a true freshman with Georgia in 2019. If he does not get hurt and get limited to only 63 snaps, is he just a first-round lock? I mean, I think it's a fair question. The way he goes up and gets it at the catch point, he had the big plays down the stretch for Georgia as well. He's got, for whatever it's worth, he's got those ridiculous plays where he's just like destroying corners as a run blocker. He's just got this, I don't know, intensity.
And by the way,
like
the
table.
Those 63 snaps came basically at the end of the season in the playoffs. Like he got back to play against the toughest competition at the death.
52-yarder against Bama in the championship game.
Yeah.
A couple big catches against Bama in the SEC championship and all that stuff. Yeah, and you're in a Georgia offense that's not really featuring him even when he's even when he's out there.
Right.
So this is different from, say, the Trayvon Walker thing. But anyway, you would go Pickens here? I thought you were going to say Sky Moore.
No, I think because Green Bay, I think desperately, they now need a Devontae Adams replacement. Now Pickens isn't going to do that, but he's the guy.
Isn't Sky Moore the closest thing to a high-volume guy that you're going to trust with quicks and speed and catches it well?
But I don't think he's ever going to become your number one. Pickens can.
All right. It's fine. We put Pickens I think we gave him to the Packers at 28 last time around.
Possibly.
When is Renner moving him up the draft board? It's only at 57 right now.
Hater.
We're going got to scroll down to 57. Let's go George Pickens. To the Packers here at 22, filling their biggest need, which is receiver, which also might be their biggest need when we pick again at 28. The Cardinals are up at 23. What is their biggest need? I think you could argue wide receiver 2, depending on what you think of Rondale Moore. You could argue defensive end. You've got J.J. Watt, Marcus Golden, and the Barbarian, Dennis Gardeck.
The Barbarian.
Yeah. Just saying, the Barbarian's there, re-signed.
That guy's agent needs some.
It hurts your argument a little bit. You could go interior defensive line.
Guy's agent needs a medal.
Interior defensive lines, Rashard Lawrence and Leki Fotu, and it feels like they've got way more. You've got corner too.
Yeah,
it feels like they've got way more holes than they should have for a team that was really ascending last year.
There's a team like Washington where you go through their roster and you're like, wow, this team's actually in pretty good shape in terms of needs. And then you have the opposite where you go to Arizona and you're like, for a team that was double-digit wins, playoff side, okay, it ended badly, but a team in theory that's in the ascendancy, you look at this roster and you're like, wow, there's actually quite a lot of holes here.
So edge isn't really the biggest need because they at least have starters there. The corners are Breon Borders, Marco Wilson, Byron Murphy. So corner's a spot that needs to be addressed, I think. Along the offensive line, maybe right guard. Josh Jones slated to start. You got Will Hernandez that they just signed, who probably is an upgrade. But again, it's a good
marginal upgrade.
Yeah, but it's an upgrade. And then wide receiver 2.
I think it's corner or guard.
Corner or guard. So if it's guard, you've got those couple options with Zion Johnson, the top guy on the board there.
And honestly, I think it's corner.
I mean, I agree that it's corner too. Now that becomes
Marco Wilson showed some flashes, and Byron Murphy is your slot guy.
Andrew Booth, Kyer Elam, next guy's on our board.
Yeah,
I'm lower on Booth. He doesn't fit a lot of my my profiles.
Why do you hate
profiles. Doesn't fit the production profiles.
It's also very new to playing.
New football player.
Inexperienced, I guess.
New football player.
Is the better
He's
way
a
of
new
phrasing
football
that.
player.
Yeah.
Inexperienced football. I don't hate Andrew Booth, but let's take your favorite corner here and let's fill that need here for the Cardinals.
Booth.
You want Booth?
We're going. Yeah.
Fine. I'm not going to fight you on it. But
Cool.
I would have taken Elam. Go Gators. Andrew Booth going to the Cardinals to be the potential starting corner. Dallas is next up, number 24. Now, interior defensive line for the 10th straight year for the Cowboys.
I think also offensive line.
Left guard.
Well, so left guard or right tackle. I got a lot of hate for Cowboys fans for suggesting that right tackle is a need, having gotten rid of
Well, Terrence Steele got better last year, and he worked with Duke, so he's good.
Yeah, he also had a grade of like 65. I mean,
Yeah.
How good do we think he is? Conversely, like Connor McGovern was actually okay. Like, okay, he was okay a lot of the time at fullback, but still.
So left guard or right tackle is potential starting spots. I mean, if you have Trevor Penning on the board from Northern Iowa and you put him in at right tackle.
Well, that's what I did, and Dallas fans were hating it. They were like, guard is a way bigger need. Is it really?
No, I don't know that it is.
That was my point.
Oh, dude, embrace the hate again. Embrace the hate again.
Terrence Steele played pretty well last year at times. He also played a lot the year before and had a grade of 50 and a pass blocking grade of 49. Even last year, his pass blocking grade was 60. Like, how good do we think he is?
Is edge as big of a need? They signed Dante Fowler to replace Randy Gregory.
I mean, that's not great, but you do have DeMarcus Lawrence.
That's one edge, Sam.
We also have Micah Parsons.
I understand that, but
that's different to not having a capable starting.
So Micah Parsons is your starting linebacker and your starting edge if you want.
Yeah.
And that makes Dante Fowler your number 3 pass rusher, which is where Fowler should be. He's your 3.
Sure.
But I am far more intrigued when it was DeMarcus Lawrence, Randy Gregory, and Micah Parsons.
Well, of course, but that's different to like what is the biggest need.
So you want to look offensive line here.
I think you either pick you take your pick of left guard or right tackle, and honestly, I think they're the same need. Or
let's get the vitriol from Cowboys fans
that
again.
Interior defensive line. But I would go. So I think this is a team that drafts for need when they can, and they think they need an offense.
See, I would just go Jordan Davis here. I would say the Cowboys still want to not get gashed against the run. They have not found that guy up front that can hold the point. Neville Gallimore hasn't developed. Tristan Hill hasn't developed. Carlos Watkins slated to maybe start. Oso Odigizua. I mean, they've thrown a lot of mid-round picks, right? Second, third, fourth round picks at this problem the last couple of years, and nobody's really panned out.
Odigizua, I think, flashed a lot last year and could be better this year.
Okay.
I'm just saying, I think he might be okay.
As far as biggest need, it feels like a multi-year problem along the defensive line that Jordan Davis could help solve.
But do you really want to not touch that offensive line in round 1? Just let him go right in there with Terrence Steele and Connor McGovern. Tyler Biadasz. The ghost of Tyron Smith.
Now you could make the Biadasz argument that he's gotten better every year.
That's going to get you some Duke hate.
Why he's a Biadasz guy?
Yeah.
I don't care about. I'm not afraid of Duke.
Well, you're a lot taller than Duke.
I'm a lot taller than him. That's right. I'm not afraid of Duke.
Okay.
I liked Biadasz a lot coming out. I think he's fine. I'm intrigued by Linderbaum in that system. Linderbaum's the next Travis Frederick there in Dallas, potentially.
All right. What are we doing?
All right. Need-wise, you're right. Though need-wise, because Biadasz has been on the ascent, center is less of a need. Terrence Steele, you could argue he's on the ascent. It's either left guard or right tackle. We've done the tackle thing before.
I honestly think that's a coin flip. Like, I don't...
Right, give him the guard.
I don't see how you can look at that and say Terrence Steele is so much better than Connor McGovern.
Go Zion Johnson.
Okay.
Zion Johnson is going to start at left guard for the Cowboys. Their biggest need. And the Cowboys fans will love you. Need the guard. No, I don't think but you're going to get the other half of Cowboys fans that want a right tackle. Mm-hmm. It's going to be great. Great thought experiment. Do the opposite of what we think the people have said most recently. All right, the Bills are up at 25. One of those loaded rosters.
Really is. They're another team where you look at it and you're like, they don't
Do I have to reset the whole draft? I'm not going to reset the whole thing. I'm not going to list the whole draft. We're doing a needs-based mock. It's not exactly what we would do. It's a little bit of a prediction. We're talking through everything, but we're doing this if teams were filling their biggest needs. And once again, I want to bring up the fact that if this was the way every team drafted, say our number 10 player on the board, George Karlaftis at edge, is still available, and Jordan Davis is still available at 25. Tyler Linderbaum, center. Trevor Penning. I mean, a lot of good players still available here. Jermaine Johnson, who, again, we're going to be a little bit lower on than a lot of the NFL. Bills at 25.
It's probably guard again, right?
Is it running back?
Running back.
For the Bills, it's right guard unless you believe in Ryan Bates as the starter. Bates is one of those guys, like, in small sample sizes, he's got some of those, like, year 3-4 O-line breakout ability. They just matched an offer sheet that the Bears offered Bates, I believe it was, and the Bills bring him back.
Yeah. So you think that he's your starter at right guard and you're fine?
Look, I mean, I don't know if they think differently about Cody Ford than we do, but he has not played well by our numbers.
Oh, wait, they brought in Roger Saffold as
They have
well,
Saffold
right?
at left guard. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm talking about the right guard. If you're talking guard, it's got to be the right guard position that we're looking at here. Because everywhere else, like even like tight end, I used to think was a potential need. Dawson Knox has been reasonable, but they even bring in O.J. Howard. Everywhere along the defensive line, they have depth. You could argue
CB2.
You could argue nose tackle. You've got Daquan Jones who comes in. You have Ed Oliver on the defensive line. You've got Tim Settle, but like they've added players there, right?
Settle. Cornerback 2.
And then corner 2.
Tre'Davious White, obviously number 1. Dane Jackson.
Yeah,
it's got to be.
So to me, I've been saying I really want CB2 for the Bills late first for the last 3 years.
Well, every year you bring in someone to take away Levi Wallace's job. Now Levi Wallace is taking his own job away to Pittsburgh.
I should have drafted somebody to take away Wallace's job in Pittsburgh, too.
Right. So now you have to take his job away because his job left. His job's in Pittsburgh. So cornerback.
So it's either corner or right guard. I would argue it's corner, and I'd go Elam.
Yes, done. Sweet, easy.
Florida corner. Elam's going to the Bills.
Now we get to the great pick because no matter what you select for Tennessee, their fans think you screwed it up. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what
Why don't
position.
we stay on brand and skip the Titans? Let's skip this pick. Leave this one blank. Like, legitimately. This is like the
mock draft sim. I don't think it has the ability to do the Vikings on it and just miss your pick.
We tried to remember this last year, but the 2003 draft where the Vikings
just missed their pick.
They were at 7,
and in the time they took to draft, 2 people jumped them.
Yeah, so the Jaguars literally sprinted to the podium.
Yes,
to hand in
Minnesota's
Byron
time
Leftwich.
On the clock expired while they were trying to sort their pick.
This was genius though, because they got to.
It wasn't genius. It just worked out.
They saved a lot of money.
Yeah,
and they got Kevin Williams right at 9.
Yes,
who went at 8?
I
can't remember.
Don't remember.
I mean, it's a Google away. 2003 NFL draft, but the Jaguars sprinted to the podium to hand in Byron Leftwich. Whoever had 8 sprinted to the podium.
So I remember it was good players the whole way. So. Yeah, they were up, didn't get their pick in. 2 teams rushed up their pick. Byron Leftwich for the Jags, Jordan Gross for the Carolina Panthers, who was one of the best left tackles of his generation.
And then the Vikings get Kevin Williams.
And then the Vikings get Kevin Williams. The next pick was Terrell Suggs. The next pick after that was Marcus Trufant. This was a good draft.
That was a good group. Yeah, that was a good group. That was so the Titans are going to do that, which is going to expire. So what's the Titans' biggest need? This is where...
Well, it depends. So
because you tweeted out one of these the other day, right? Like a needs-based mock. So you're going off of that.
They're one of those teams where the needs as judged by player performance on the field does not match with the needs as judged by what the team and fan base thinks about certain players, right? So we have been giving them linebackers because none of their linebackers have played well, except the one exception to that is David Long, who's played pretty well in a small sample size with 1 year of playing time.
I still like Zach Cunningham.
And not even 1 year of playing time, like half a year, essentially.
I still like Zach Cunningham. He's pretty good.
But at this point, it's not really based off his play. It's based off like what he once did a while ago.
So I think the biggest needs, though, because David Quessenberry did a really nice job at right tackle last year. It depends on what you think. Like Dylan Radunz, who they drafted last year.
Right, so that's another example, right?
So he's slated to be the starting right tackle.
The guy who had, had sort of first round potential, was gotten a little bit lower than that, and is now slated to start. Played tiny bit last year and didn't play well. So what do you do with that? Is that a guy who you trust, and is that a need, or is that no? Right tackle's fine. Dylan Radunz is playing. Left guard, Jamarco Jones. I don't know that that's a great thing either.
Jamarco Jones is one of those guys that I have on like my I would trade for him in year 3 or 4 list to see if he develops, but not enough that
I would also argue, similar to linebacker, that edge rusher is still a need. I know you've got an absolute boatload of resources tied up in it because you just gave Bud Dupree the bag and then you gave Harold Landry all the money. Neither one of those guys is a high-end pass rusher right now.
Well, how about they lose Daquan Jones and nose tackle, pure nose tackle in Tennessee. This could open the path for Jordan Davis here, because like interior defensive line as a whole, Danico Autry, Jeffrey Simmons, they're good. They've got some depth players, but actual nose tackle.
I mean, sure. I don't know that's their biggest need, though. In fact, I'm pretty sure it isn't.
Where would you put it? I mean, I honestly don't think it's really. I could see linebacker.
I don't think
David Long and Zach Cunningham are.
I think edge rush is a problem. I think left guard. I think right tackle.
They're not drafting an edge rusher, though.
That's different, too. Is that a need?
It's not.
It is. Bud Dupree shouldn't be starting for anybody.
He's at least starting caliber.
Based off what?
Is he one of the best 64 edge defenders in the league? I think Bud Dupree is. Is he worth whatever he's making? No.
Have you seen Bud's grades?
Over the last 3 years, he's borderline top 64.
If it is, it's based entirely off that 1 year in 2019 where he had a 76 pass rushing grade.
Sure.
Every other year of his career, 49, 60, 60, 61, 61, 56. Those are bad grades.
I'm not a Bud Dupree defender, but as far as is he a starter? Like he's on the cusp there.
For a guy that's
had
as much opportunity as he has to have basically a baseline pass rushing grade of 61 is abysmal. 61 last year would put you down where Lorenzo Carter and Dante Fowler are. That's terrible.
Edge, you're not going to win the edge argument given the investment. It's not their biggest need given the investment.
But that's different.
And they have 2 starters.
That's not the same conversation.
It is a little bit.
It isn't.
I would say it's offensive line because you have 2 questions at starter and you just have more options. I'm fine with Ray Dunn's either playing tackle or guard here. Jamarco Jones slated as a guard, maybe not.
You're fine with Ray Dunn's starting?
Yeah, because I'm kind of going off of we don't have much evidence. Like last year at this time, if we were doing a mock draft and we were picking for the Titans at 26, there's probably a chance we gave them Ray Dunn's to start at right tackle. Right? And not much has changed other than we have a little bit of preseason evidence and some snaps last year where he wasn't great, but he played guard, played tackle, moved around. Not much has changed since that point, right? It's a good system right tackle place. They've been just churning out right tackles left and right.
All right. So you want a guard?
Yeah.
So you want Kenyon Green?
Yes, we're going to scroll down to Kenyon Green.
Texas A&M.
Yep, Texas A&M guard. Kenyon Green's going to the Titans to fill their biggest need, which is clear as day, which is guard.
All right.
Oh, man, now there goes the Bucs guard.
Right, the guards run. Run on guards, and now Tampa Bay's screwed.
Tampa Bay's biggest needs left guard.
Did that work out? Is it?
Interior defensive line as well.
Oh, not just interior. Have you seen their edge rushers?
All defensive
outside
line.
Of Shaq?
They just, try on Shayenka. They drafted him and Shaq Barrett. They're the starters. You could go edge again if you're Tampa Bay. Left guard, Nick Leverett is the projected start. I mean, the biggest need is filling the starting left guard spot.
Yes, I would agree.
The other thing you could argue is Rob Gronkowski's not there yet. We can assume that Gronk is going back?
Yeah. Also, Cameron Brate's fine.
Okay. So left guard is absolutely their biggest need.
Yeah.
But with Ndamukong Suh not necessarily signed yet, William Golston comes back. You could look at interior defensive line. You could look at the edge a little bit, I'd say. They bring in Logan Ryan to fill one of the safety spots with Mike Edwards, but they're pretty deep in the secondary. So it's either guard.
I mean, by the rules of the game,
it's guard.
Guard.
Rules of the game. So where are we with the next guard?
Dylan Parham.
Oh, Memphis.
67 on.
He's going to make it into our first round here.
67 on the PFF board.
By your rules, you would just draft Tyler Linderbaum.
I was going to raise that question. I was actually going to raise in the last for Tennessee that can Linderbaum play guard for a year?
What about Trevor Penning at guard?
Can Trevor Penning play guard for a year? Man,
you would just look at his 6'7", 321-pound frame and say no, but we've got, was it Adam Boone? 6'6"? Is Adam Boone?
Alex Boone.
Adam. Jeez, man. Look, there's been a lot of football players over the years.
Right.
Alex Boone was a 6'6" guard.
Yeah. Also, I've come to this conclusion recently that like interior players are getting a hell of a lot taller than they used to be. Remember when the Vikings drafted what was his name? Ryan Cook, who was a college tackle. Is that right? And they kicked him into center, and he was like a 6'7" center. And I was like, oh, that's insane. You can't possibly play a 6'7" center. It's madness. It's way too tall. And now, like, who was somebody last year? The Chiefs center, whose name's escaped me right now. Creed Humphrey.
Huge.
I was trying to think of a pun from a Creed song that was like the.
So I was reading something else.
The name escaped me. Was gonna anyway. Creed Humphrey is like 6'6", and I literally didn't know that until the other day, where I was suddenly like, hang on, he's an inch shorter than Ryan Cook, and nobody ever mentioned it.
Creed's proven that centers are getting higher.
Yes. So, the question I was going to ask for Tennessee is, can Linderbaum play guard for a year and then potentially take over for Ben Jones down the line? It's a little bit trickier for Tampa Bay because he would have to be at guard for a while.
Linderbaum's really not a fit for them anyway. I mean, like, as much as I was shoehorning him into the Ravens and saying that you expand the run game and all that stuff, the Bucs are just going to run duo 95 straight times, and that is not really Linderbaum's game.
So in comes Dylan Parham.
That's not really. I mean, we could put Penning.
No, we can't. You want Penning? Penning, you want to be your guard.
Is 6'7" too big for guard?
Not if Creed Humphrey at 6'6" is cool.
Let's go Penning, and then maybe he ends up becoming a tackle replacement down the road for Donovan Smith.
Okay, Trevor
Penning. Are we cheating too much here?
No, I think we can shoehorn Penning in at guard.
All right, cool. Trevor Penning's going to start at left guard.
We need to write over when they get the picture at the end.
Brady's tall enough to see over 6'7" Penning.
We need to cross it out and write guard where Penning is.
Yeah, put guard in there. All right, Packers are up. Biggest need. Receiver 2. Receiver 3. So
now we've given them George Pickens, and they have George Pickens, Alan Lazard. It's still probably is a need.
I'm a big fan of doubling up at receiver in general.
They've still got, in theory, Randall Cobb, Amari Rodgers. But yeah, they still need one, right?
I mean, Sky Moore's looking really good there.
Sky Moore, you could argue that tight end is quite a bad need. Tunyon's come back. DeGuara. Mercedes
Rodgers made
Lewis
Tunyon into a pretty decent player, though.
Yeah, but sure. But that
Mercedes Lewis coming back?
Yeah,
He's back again.
But that logic is there for everybody, right? Like Aaron Rodgers makes people.
But Tunyon was actually good most of the last 2 years before he got hurt. Edge was kind of a need before they re-signed Preston Smith. I think they're okay there. They've taken a slot corner potentially.
Sure.
But they do have 3 corners in Jay Alexander, Eric Stokes, and Rasul Douglas.
Yeah.
How much do you trust their offensive line? You could look guard here too. Royce Newman slated to start with Elkin Jenkins probably playing on the outside. You could get a tackle and kick Jenkins back inside. I mean, there's some flexibility there along the O-line.
Yeah.
But I do think with how much production Devontae Adams has taken with him, the biggest need is finding a wide receiver. And I would argue that it's not that the Packers need 2 wide receivers, but they need one to pan out. And if you draft 2 to find one.
Not just one, but they need the one to replace the sum of the best wide receiver in the NFL.
Yeah. I'm viewing this from you might get 2 receivers out of this, but also I'm drafting 2 to get 1 at least if I'm the Packers.
Sky
it's
Moore?
that important. I'd go Sky Moore here, yeah. So there we go. Western Michigan receiver.
I also have
speed, quicks. He's going to get open.
Yeah,
for Aaron Rodgers.
I have a massive degree of confidence in Sky Moore's floor. I think he will unquestionably be a good wide receiver.
So that makes a good mix. Because the Packers at 22, we gave him George Pickens.
Yeah.
So we gave him the high ceiling guy. We don't know what the floor is going to be. We gave him a high floor guy in Sky Moore. Floor guys, they're good decision makers in general around businesses. That's what we do here.
That's a deep cut.
Yeah, it is. Chiefs are up for back-to-back picks. 29 and 30. Biggest needs for the Chiefs? Got to be wide receiver and defensive line, right?
Yes. I would argue that edge rusher is their single biggest need right now.
I agree. This will be easy because the number 10 player on our board is George Karlaftis.
Perfect.
From Purdue.
Done.
So biggest need is edge defender for the Chiefs.
Karlaftis over Jermaine Johnson.
Oh, man. I mean, they would take Jermaine Johnson, I think.
Okay.
Don't you think?
But here's the thing. I just clicked the button for George Karlaftis.
Let's go Karlaftis. I would go Karlaftis. This is where we're going to...
I agree, though. I think
we're going to go with our higher-graded player, higher-rated player.
People take Jermaine Johnson over Karlaftis.
People are going to be very upset when they don't see Jermaine Johnson in the first round here, but...
That might still happen.
He might... we'll see. Do you go another edge? No, so what about corner for the Chiefs, though? Rashad Fenton's been really solid, but they're taking a shot on DeAndre Baker, former first-round pick. L'Jarius Sneed has pretty much been their slot corner, so outside corner is a question mark here.
It is.
I know the mock draft sim has Jalen Petre as a corner. He's really a safety,
right?
Coming out of Baylor.
Could argue the same thing about Daxton Hill.
What about safety as well? They bring in Justin Reed and Juan Thornhill. Do you want a third safety because they've been playing those type of sets? Not a perfect
cornerback two is a bigger need than that. At which point you're going down to T-Rex arms, Roger McCreary, or Kyler Gordon.
Well, it's corner two, or is it receiver? Because how do they want? Are they comfortable with Valdez Scantling, Juju Smith-Schuster, Mecole Hardman?
I don't know if you're comfortable with it, but I think it's a bigger need to say DeAndre Baker might be starting.
Yeah.
I mean,
you can also reinvest in the offensive line here. You can go right tackle over Lucas Niang. Just keep throwing resources at the O-line. That's what's gonna.
You really want to keep picking at that.
I got a DM from somebody that said, "Can you at least admit that the Chiefs made their offensive line better?" I said, "Absolutely. Their offensive line is much better, really good." Not the argument I've been making the last 10 shows here.
No, I mean the argument you've been making is terrible. But
no, it's a good argument. The goal is to win as many games as possible, not to just have a good offensive line.
Uh-huh.
All right, so we're going to go corner.
Or wide receiver. I think it's cornerback is a bigger need.
We don't. I mean, Daxton Hill's another guy that's kind of listed as a corner. He's an inside-outside hybrid, even a safety type of player.
Already said that. But,
you did, sorry.
Go nuts. McCreary versus Gordon.
Oh, McCreary. I missed that part.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I'm Team McCreary.
Yeah.
Roger McCreary.
Let's go.
Corner. Kansas City Chiefs.
Done.
Their need. Let's go McCreary. He's 54 on the board, but Renner's a hater. Here we go. Thanks, Mike. Good work keeping up here, man. Your Bengals are on the clock. Do you want to chime in?
We get Mike's take. Where do you need? Yeah. Where do the Bengals need, Mike?
What are the biggest needs here for the Bengals?
Corner. Left guard. Mike says corner.
Corner and left guard. So you're not sticking with Jackson Carman here, huh? Not going Jackson Carman at left guard. And not an Eli Apple fan. Don't you love how Eli took to social media to defend our city here?
I do. You guys need to get his mom, Annie Apple, podcast.
Yes, Annie.
She has a pod.
She's been outspoken. Yeah, she's been, a public figure since Eli went in the first round.
Yeah, since day one. She was when she was it. What was it? What first catapulted her into this public sphere? Was it some sort of food related thing when he was drafted?
Oh,
I seem to think it was, so I can't remember.
I forget, man. Yeah, Annie Apple, legend.
I tend to agree, though. I think corner is the biggest need.
So corner being the biggest need, they've got Chidobe Awuzie, who they invested in, Eli Apple, who they bring back, Mike Hilton playing the slot, but another outside corner. So that puts us back to the Roger McCreary's gone. Kyler Gordon is the next pure corner on the board.
This isn't going as well as the last time I did it. This the back end of the first round
has a lot of second-round caliber players.
Yeah, it hasn't fallen as kindly for some teams that did when I did it last time.
I mean, the argument that you were making for, say, the Titans about how edge is a need because they have starters that don't play all that well, do you make the argument for the Bengals? Lower-graded guys for us, but they've invested a lot of resources at linebacker the last couple of years. Trying to shoehorn Nakobe Dean in here.
I think you could make that argument. The problem is they have at least one good linebacker, I think.
Yeah.
They don't really have any good corners that you can trust long term.
The other interesting one, I want to listen to our Bengal superfan who's running the show here today, Mike. What about tight end? I know they brought in Hayden Hurst and Drew Sample as their run blocker, but a nice pass-catching tight end to replace Uzama, potentially. We could get a tight end in the first round here.
We could.
Trey McBride.
People hate that.
People really hate that. Now, let's go with our – I like your initial instinct, though, was guard and corner.
I think corner is the biggest need. I think you can definitely argue that like you could upgrade over Jermaine Pratt pretty comfortably at linebacker. But I think Logan Wilson is a pretty good player, so I don't know if you can call that the biggest need.
Next pure corner on the board is Kyler Gordon from Washington.
I think that makes sense.
All right.
Let's do that one.
We're going Kyler Gordon, number 60 on the board. We're shoehorning some corners in here. And it puts the Lions back up on the board.
Mm-hmm.
Way back when, they already grabbed Malik Willis at number 2 to fill that biggest need at QB. What's their next biggest need?
I mean, once you fill quarterback for Detroit,
it's receiver or corner, right?
Yeah, like they still end up, but they also still end up having quite a lot of needs. I mean, this is not a team that's fixed everything. I think, wide receiver. They need that number 1 guy, right? You've got Amon-Ra St. Brown. You've rolled the dice on DJ Chark, which I like. That receiving core as a whole could be pretty useful, but you do need that number 1 guy. And then corner, Okuda hasn't worked out yet, if at all. Owarie has been okay. Melifanu hasn't shown enough yet. They've grabbed Mike Hughes, former first-round guy, but there's nobody there that you're saying.
Everywhere on the depth, like the receiver depth chart, you could actually look at with DJ Chark, Josh Reynolds, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and say, it's not horrendous, but they're also all like Chark's in there for 1 year.
Yeah.
It's not
the Lions, but they're
the future there.
They're another one of those teams where I think you can hit a lot of spots.
Yeah.
Like they're 2 inside linebackers right now, Jared Davis, who they brought back, former first-round bust for them, and Alex Anzalone, who they brought back. Those guys have grades in the 30s.
Yeah.
Not good linebackers.
I mean, if we're going by actual biggest need, you can say that there's at least starting caliber players in the secondary, starting caliber players at receiver right now. You could argue the linebacker.
I think we can hedge enough and give them Nakobe Dean just because it's such a glaring value at this point.
Number 18 on the draft board is Nakobe Dean. He's going to go to the Detroit Lions at 32.
Mm-hmm.
And there it is. First-round mock.
So you wanted to run through teams that don't have a first-round pick quickly and just analyze where their biggest need is.
Do we want to do that?
Why not? Just mention them quickly. Chicago picks 39, wide receiver. We're not going to give them the picks.
And O-line.
Yeah. Who else we got coming up? Indianapolis, 42.
I mean, they're another receiver.
Corner as well is a pretty big need for them.
Receiver and corner maybe for the Colts, yep.
Cleveland, 44.
I think it's defensive line. I mean, it's really edge defender opposite Myles Garrett. It depends on if Jadeveon Clowney comes in. Both places that the Browns have
Mari
needs.
Cooper gives them some flexibility at receiver.
And there's already talk about Jarvis Landry still coming back. There's talk about Jadeveon Clowney still coming back. Those are both major needs, receiver and D-line in general.
San Francisco, 61's the first time they come up.
I haven't thought much about the Niners here.
I think they need interior.
They need starters on
offensive
the
line.
O-line, yeah. They got to replace Laken Tomlinson.
Yeah. I think they could also use a corner still.
They always seem to need corners, and they get by.
Sure, but at some point that becomes a problem.
Yeah.
Denver first come up at 64.
I don't know where they have needs here. Are they right tackle, I believe? Going to pull up their depth chart really quick. Starting right tackle is Billy Turner. Just signed him. Look at their offense, Sam. It's green everywhere. Everyone graded solid last year. I think they signed Randy Gregory for their edge defender issue. Maybe starting safety next to Justin Simmons. Unless you trust Caden Stearns there. That could be a good place to grab a safety at 64, their first need. Okay. Their first pick. And we listed, corner, it's Patrick Surtain, Ronald Darby, K'Wan Williams. They look pretty good there. I'd say safety for the Broncos.
Miami Dolphins. I haven't checked where they first come up.
They're closer to the hundreds. I believe,
the teams remaining are the ones that I had a 2-round mock draft as default, so I haven't scrolled far enough to be able to get.
I'm into round 3. Where are the Dolphins here?
So Miami are the next team up.
Dolphins don't pick till 102. Does that sound right? And then the Raiders are in the hundreds as well.
Right, Raiders, and then the Rams. Right, are the only other team.
Biggest need for the Dolphins. Did they fill? Michael Dieter at center. It's probably center for the Dolphins.
Sure. It's still the offensive line, period.
More offensive line, because we don't know what they're going to do with Austin Jackson. You could get a starting center. A center or a guard
Yep.
for the Dolphins. What about the Raiders
I
and
think
Rams?
they need offensive line as well. Right side of the offensive line for the Raiders.
You're already going to give up on Alex Leatherwood?
Alex Leatherwood was a catastrophe at right tackle and a slightly smaller catastrophe at right guard. At the very minimum, you can't be relying on him going forward.
And the Los Angeles Rams. I would say corner just for Robert Rochelle's there, David Long's there. Both guys have potential, but
Yeah.
I would just say corner for just taking another shot at a potential starter opposite Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. I also wouldn't hate them trying to trying to chip back away at that offensive line. Like, they've kept players, they've allowed Austin Corbett to walk. When you kind of look, the Rams' offensive line the last few years had that feel of sometimes when teams take a bunch of players that are like marginal starters, and you're like, yeah, there's a world where those guys all pan out and you have a good line. That happened for them, but that always feels a little bit more fragile than than like lines that have a bunch of very good players on them.
A few years ago, they drafted within 2 drafts, right? David Edwards, Brian Allen, Bobby Evans. Edwards and Allen have pretty much panned out. Evans right now slated to probably be their starting right guard. Hasn't been great. So another round of mid-round offensive linemen to see if you could steal another 2 starters. Could be a nice strategy there for the Rams with all their mid-round picks.
Yep.
Well, look at that. That was a good mock. We're gonna get a graphic and tweet this thing out, huh?
Yeah. And then we'll cross out guard or cross out tackle and
For Trevor
and
Penning.
guard for Trevor Penning.
Oh, people are going to be upset. We did this very specifically. We're just filling needs. And again, my favorite part about the mock draft is just the discourse, Sam, the discussion back and forth, what teams might do, what they could do, what they should do. Don't forget, by the way, NFL Pod, 25% off any PFF subscription over at the site right now. NFL Pod, you get 25% off. That's where the draft guide all comes in. Get it right now. The update's going to come up next week on April 11th. So you get 25% off. You can contact us also through email, NFLpodcast at PFF.com. NFLpodcast at PFF.com, not Gmail. We're past the 2-hour mark. I'm starting to lose it. So that's great. I think the player comp show is going to be coming up late next week. I think we got the people lined up to be able to record that and do the player comp show. And we're going to do some wide receiver rankings this week. We'll do the mailbag and everything on Wednesday. So anything else you got here?
No, we've done it. It's good.
Right.
It's good work.
Well, as always, it was just needs, all right? Don't kill us for the mock draft. It was a needs-based mock as a thought exercise. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. We'll be back on Wednesday.